On players, Buccaneers used their franchise tag at around $16.5 million on receiver Chris Godwin. Move with Godwin means the team will not use the tag on linebacker Shaq Barrett, who played last season on the Buccaneers franchise tag. Lions inform receiver Kenny Golladay today that he will not be tagged by the team and he will become a free agent next week. Agent for cornerback Malcolm Butler today telling ESPN's Jeremy Fowler Titans releasing Butler. Team will clear over $10 million in cap space with that move. ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano discussed Dak Prescott coming to terms with the Cowboys today on his appearance on Get Up.
This is a home run for Dak Prescott and his agent Todd France. I mean, they got literally everything. They got a record signing bonus, most guaranteed money at signing, $95 million, surpassing Matt Ryan's deal from a couple of years ago. The 3-year cash flow, the no franchise tag promise. Heck, they're going to franchise him today just as a procedural matter so that anybody else who ever wants to franchise him years from now would have to pay the 3rd-year franchise cost to do it.
Dan Graziano today on Get Up. Horizon League title game right now on ESPN television. Second half just underway. Oakland down against top seed Cleveland State by 12, 40-28. At the half on ESPN2, Northeast Conference Championship, Mount St. Mary's 34-29 lead on Bryant. Yankees pitcher Zach Britton will undergo surgery to remove a bone spur in his left elbow.
Wednesday with Greeny, we're still looking back on Dak Prescott signing the richest deal in Cowboys history, and we'll talk to another Cowboy legend, Moose Johnston, with me, Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
Isn't this a sports show?
I hope those people that listen to the entire show get the full experience. Super serious Tyreek Hill stuff. First hour and a half.
Yep.
Last 10 minutes, Josh had his underwear on backwards.
Almost entirely.
I was in Las Vegas for like 20 minutes, and I did get naked in the Las Vegas airport.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Not completely naked. I was sort of Winnie the Poohing.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Joshua Brisco here for Joshua Brisco's Twitter account at JB Brisco. You can follow Joshua Brisco on Twitter at JB Brisco. This has been a commercial. Welcome back to Almost Entirely Sports. MVP-ness! Ha ha ha!
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Busy news day out of Lawrence, Kansas. A lot of things to talk about. We will cover all of them over the course of the next 3 hours tonight. We will start with Jeff Long's press conference here in just a moment because I think it was one of the more interesting press conferences, certainly one of the most interesting athletic director press conferences I've ever seen. There is a lot to take away from it, even if you are not a KU fan, if you're not invested in KU football, even if you're not really, for whatever reason, invested in the Les Miles story at this point. I think you're going to want to hear what I think is interesting from the Jeff Long presser that came a little bit earlier today. I also now have had to change the channel on the TV in here twice because the Super Bowl is re-airing on NFL Network on 2 of our channels, and I simply do not want to watch it during this show.
What happened? I missed it.
It just wasn't as fun as you may have thought it was going to be at the time.
So they only won by like 15?
Unfortunately, it was less than that.
10.
No. They won by negative points, is how I'll say it.
Yeah, a win's a win.
Stupid. We will also be joined. That's Rudy Salazar. Beards McFly on the other side of the glass. I'm Joshua Brisco. You know that at this point. You can interact with the show in a variety of places. I look forward to hearing from a variety of people in a variety of streams. You can watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page, Twitch channel, and YouTube Live. We will talk to Nick Schwerdt of KLWN in Lawrence here in an hour. I really like talking to Nick about even things that I'm not that interested in. I'm very excited to talk to Nick about the Les Miles, Jeff Long story that we are now in like phase 5 of after being in phase 1 like 2 days ago. And we will still have our usual Tuesdays with Seth. Seth Keysor will join us at 9 tonight, and we'll just talk about some Chiefs football stuff, and we'll take a break from all of the things out of Lawrence. The other piece of news that we got later in the day, or actually we got earlier in the day, but later in the news cycle, because last night, as we were wrapping up the show, we got the news that KU and Les Miles had mutually agreed to part ways, or as I will continue to say, much like I have phrased it with John Dorsey's departure from the Chiefs a little while back, Les Miles was mutually parted ways with. He did end up getting about a $2 million buyout. KU was on the books to owe him $8 million. In the grand scheme of contract buyouts, I'm willing to say this is a win in terms of paying for this to go away from Kansas's perspective. It's also a win for Les Miles, who came to KU, won 3 games, and then got called out for being a weirdo at LSU and is now leaving with $2 million for not having to work the rest of this year. So
Les Miles basically just took the rest of his yearly paycheck.
Right.
So, which for Kansas, as far as a financial standpoint goes, huge win. I would not say it was a good day for Kansas football.
No,
but you find the little wins where you can.
It's better than taking
Jeff
David
Long,
Beatty to court.
Find any little hey, we did all right here.
It's better than taking David Beatty to court for 97 cents that you ended up losing in legal fees anyway. So the news broke with a few minutes left in the show last night, and then we ended up actually doing another hour after the fact that we put up on the additional programming and Almost Entirely Sports podcast feeds. If you wanted to hear what it sounded like in real time, we came back and did a little breaking extra news after the show last night. But today, the information is the buyout and Jeff Long's press conference. This is a really, really strange one, to be honest. There are a couple of moments that I think anyone who was listening in real time will remember for a while. There is a moment that we will play you the audio of here in a little bit that is going to become a sort of disappointed but nonetheless kind of comical joke at the expense of Kansas football for years to come.
In regards to what?
Have we not been doing that the last 10 years?
We got a new one, though. We got a new one. And the details of this are bad from both a perception standpoint, from a how do you have faith in this leadership standpoint, and from a content standpoint. This was a rough half hour or so for Jeff Long and for KU football. And they trotted him out there. I probably would not have advocated for that if I was in KU PR. Maybe they felt they needed to put somebody out there. And I don't know if it was, hey, Jeff, you made your bed. Go field the questions for it. I don't know if they just felt like the statement was super duper weak, which it was. I mean, it was a very limited statement that went out last night. But they made the choice, for one reason or another, to have Jeff Long talk today, and it gave us some things to talk about. What you won't hear is going to be hit the very beginning of his opening statement. It was a lot of
7 minutes long total. It was a long opening statement.
Yeah, and the first half was predominantly gotta win games, student athletes, building at KU, athletes, football, said the way that Rudy just said it.
Yes, that's how Jeff Long said football. Football.
It was the beginning of a press conference that could have been copied and pasted from or to pretty much any Power 5 school firing their head coach after a disappointing season. As was the statement that we read last night, where Jeff Long, in the statement saying that they had agreed to mutually part ways or whatever, that KU needed to win football games. And while, yes, that's true, that's not why you're firing your coach in March. This is, I think, fair to say, not ideal, not typical, and not good in any way, shape, or form. But if you treat it as this thing that's kind of almost normal, maybe the thought there is the less we shine a light on it, the less everyone else is going to point and laugh. I don't know. But it was a lot of rah-rah kind of AD talk. And that may work, by the way, that works in the introductory press conference, right? You can say student athletes, football, we're going to win, we're going to build whenever you're introducing Les Miles. Whenever you're taking questions about why you have mutually parted ways with him, that tone doesn't really bridge the gap that I think KU is very clearly dealing with right now. Anyway, that was sort of the beginning of his opening press conference. There are 5 clips that we are going to play for you here from the press conference today. If you want to hear the full thing, it was all carried live here on 810. You can go find the program's podcast page. It was all carried live on the program earlier today. But I want you to hear about 2.5 minutes of Jeff Long's opening statement here towards the end, where he talked about the background checks and the hiring process of Les Miles and what went into this process that allowed them to be apparently, and as they would tell you at this point, surprised by the allegations that have come out over the last week or so. Here's Jeff Long talking about the hiring process of Les Miles.
When Les Miles was identified as the lead candidate to be the head coach in 2018, as the University of Kansas and Kansas Athletics does with all hirings, we ran multiple background checks on Coach Miles. I also asked Coach Miles directly during the interview process whether there was anything in his past that could potentially embarrass the university or himself or our program, and he said no. We also did our due diligence by talking to individuals within the LSU athletics department to see if there was anything we should be aware of regarding Coach Miles' tenure at LSU, and received no indications of any issues. In early February, Coach Miles' legal counsel made us aware of a legal dispute in Louisiana involving Les, but they could not share the nature of the legal dispute or the formal documentation. At that point, we requested copies, After hearing this, I asked Coach Miles if there was anything in these reports that we should be concerned about, and again, he assured me no. At that point, we requested copies of any and all reports related to Les Miles while he was at LSU. We were given a variety of reasons from Miles' legal counsel why they would not be provided to us. On February 24th, we learned some details of the allegations when the Advocate published its initial article, followed by the USA Today article later that same day, that there had been a secret settlement and a sexual harassment investigation in 2013. The Taylor Porter report referenced in the article was the subject of litigation in the LSU courts. So we did not have access to it until last Thursday when it was released publicly. Additionally, the Husch-Blackwell report that was issued on Friday detailed much of the underlying allegations and the formal records for the first time. It was evident from LSU's response on Friday that many individuals at LSU were unaware of the allegations of inappropriate contact, and that individuals at the institution at the time went through great lengths to keep the information confidential.
Several things here. One, you ask him at the time, is there anything in your past that could ultimately surprise us, embarrass us, put us in any sort of jeopardy? Les Miles says no. They try to get more information. At the time with their usual background checks, we run into the same problem as the former Mets GM. They got a bunch of great character witnesses. They talked to no women. I would love to know the specifics of who they talked to at LSU. He says they did their due diligence by talking to individuals within the LSU athletics department, and they found nothing. Who did you talk to?
Clearly not the AD.
This is the other thing. You hear at the end, the dismount of clearly LSU is really trying, they were trying very hard to keep all of this quiet. The former AD wanted to fire Les Miles for cause. Look, maybe eventually someone will be able to ask the former LSU AD about that and say, hey, did KU contact you? And maybe he'll say yes, and I just didn't want to put Les on blast. I would love to know if that is true. Because I can't imagine not wanting to talk to certainly every high-ranking official around Les Miles during his time at LSU. But this wasn't a search that did that kind of work. We have Jeff Long under oath failing to remember the name of any candidates they held in-person interviews with other than Les Miles. First question after Jeff Long's opening statement came from our own Todd Lebo. And I just got to say, Lebo came in swinging on this. This was a good question from Lebo. It scorched my eyebrows whenever I heard it at the time, listening live here on Sports Radio 810. This includes Lebo's question in it. I want you to hear. Most of these clips, I think, or maybe all these clips, have the questions in them, so you can get the exact words that Jeff Long is responding to in a story like this. I think that's kind of important. Keeping in mind, Jeff Long asked Les Miles, is there anything that could come back to bite us here? No. We did our due diligence. We found nothing. We talked to people. Nothing came up. We trusted what Les Miles told us. Ended up being wrong. Here's Lebo's question.
Knowing your past relationship you'd had for all these years with Les Miles, do you feel, what are your feelings that when you asked these questions directly back in 2018, you didn't seem to get an honest answer? This wasn't someone you just met during the search process. You'd known him for a long time.
Yeah, I can't really answer why Coach Miles responded the way he did. I have known Les for 30 years. I think sometimes, and he is I consider him a friend. We did not work closely together or know each other well from that time in Michigan in the early 1990s. So I think much is played about the friendship. It's a friendship that was, certainly not the reason behind why we were hiring him to be the head coach. He was an established head coach. He was an incredible recruiter. So those were the reasons we landed on Coach Miles at the time.
Jeff Long may or may not really know why Les Miles responded the way that he did. And I don't really care about Les Miles, not about Jeff Long saying he didn't hire Les Miles because they're friends. All of the credentials there are obviously legitimate. It's the reason that I was excited that Kansas football was about to be coached by Les Miles. But I didn't know Les Miles for 30 years. And Jeff Long is man, he's got a lot of cake, and he's eaten all of it also.
You're better friends with Les Miles, though, it sounds like.
I would consider him a friend.
Yeah.
I don't care that he didn't hire him because they're friends. I believe that. I don't think that is not the same as saying he went through a different interview and hiring process because they had a previously working relationship. What I care about is the question of, you knew this guy for 30 years, and you're saying he lied to you at the time whenever you asked him these questions point blank, personally, to his face. Hey, is there anything that's going to come back and bite us? This guy who has been your friend for 3 decades didn't even murmur at you that there was a settlement that should be no big... None of that? Nothing? That's a bad friend.
I mean, friend's a strong word.
That's a bad... He said I would consider him a friend.
Yeah.
He said he'd consider it, not that he was.
And it's just the back
colleague,
pedal,
maybe.
the back pedal.
An acquaintance.
We were friends, but we weren't like best friends. Like, we didn't have like friendship bracelets or anything.
We had a couple mutual friends.
We didn't really hang out outside of work that
For
much.
30 years.
We nodded at each other at the elevator.
And really, I mean, again, we know this to be true already. Jeff Long and Les Miles essentially came to KU as a package deal.
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit if that was Jeff Long's pitch. Hire me, I'll bring you Les Miles. And honestly, again, if you have the endorsement of a lifelong friend of Les Miles, that he doesn't have some weird perversion in his past preying on student assistants, then yeah, it's a good pitch. You're KU football. You're a decrepit organization. Here's Les Miles. But what this is really about at this point isn't even really KU as a whole. All of this today, for me, is about Jeff Long. The guy that said, bring me in, I'll bring you Les Miles. And maybe there is some fault on the Kansas side there. If that was the pitch, maybe KU should have demanded some sort of, I don't know, outside independent search firm to come in and do the real background checks and all that stuff. More on that momentarily. But you cannot say, I knew this guy for 30 years. I am here to be one of his character references. And then, oops, all of this really snuck up on us. The math just doesn't work out. But still, this is just kind of building the case. I think it all kind of busts out in the open here in a minute. Here's the next clip. The hiring process for the next head coach, that is on its way. We don't know as of right now what Jeff Long's role in that will be. I think it's kind of odd to have him do a press conference if they're going to fire him tonight. I don't know if they're working on his buyout. I don't know. I can tell you this, if they fire him at 9:58 tonight, we'll probably be here till 11. I don't expect that to happen because he just had a press conference today. But really the question that is going to hover over all of this is, do you want Jeff Long hiring your next head coach? The process, though, is very close to being underway. He said that they don't have any like candidates at this point, which I would hope not. It's been pretty quick on that front. But Jeff Long talked a little bit here. This includes the question at the beginning about his involvement in the upcoming coaching search versus the involvement of an independent search firm that will be involved on at least some level.
What would your response be to KU fans that would maybe be a little bit leery about your involvement after 2018 and maybe want an independent search firm to handle the whole process?
Yeah, I don't think it's in the best interest of the University of Kansas or any university for an outside entity to totally control a search process. I'm very comfortable and confident of my years in college football. I'm confident that I can conduct the search. I'm confident that I can find the next leader of the University of Kansas.
Why? Why? Good question, probably. Sam Mellinger of the Kansas City Star asked a similar one. This whole exchange is super weird. Sam approaches this, I think, in as tasteful a way as possible. Jeff Long does something very strange. And then there's the actual answer to the question. I have thoughts about how every single step of this audio clip plays out.
Jeff, this is a little bit along those same lines, too. This is Sam Mellinger in Kansas City. This is something that in normal times, maybe I try to ask you to the side, so I apologize for the format here. But the hires that you made in Arkansas, we're talking a lot about Les, but the hires at Arkansas weren't successful either. Are there things that you've learned?
In what regard? I would have to ask, what regard were they not successful?
On the field? I mean, and the Petrino thing, we don't need to get into that, but like, what have you learned from those processes, or why do you think KU fans should be confident that you can make this hire the right one?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been involved in college football my entire professional life. I've worked at a number of institutions. I worked in a number of conferences. I have, worked in many different ways in college football, but I think I'm uniquely prepared, having been a college football coach at the Division I level at a Power 5 school early in my career, and then having worked at a number of Power 5 institutions along the way. So I'm confident in my knowledge. I'm confident in my experience, and I have no doubt that we can find the next great leader for the KU in the best interests of our student athletes.
I mean, just a one-act play right there in 1 minute and 18 seconds. I would read a book about that 78-second interval of time. Sam has since written some real vintage Mellinger stuff on KansasCity.com. His column on Jeff Long is up. It went up right before the show. It's great. You should go read it. Like during a commercial break or something. Don't leave.
I mean, you can read and listen. You can multitask.
I prefer you wait. So first of all, the way that Sam set that up there is like just impossibly generous. Because Sam's question is super reasonable in this moment. In fact, I think it's the question. What about you, Jeff Long, should fill Kansas fans, or really anybody, with some feeling of positivity, with some feeling of certainty that you should be the guy to pick the next head coach of Kansas football? Great question. I think lobbed up there very generously.
Well, he's uniquely qualified. I don't know if you know that.
So then, whenever he says that the Bobby Petrino and Brett Bielema eras at Arkansas were not successful, Jeff Long has to first interject with, in what regard?
Just gotta know.
Sam, again, Sam did Jeff Long a favor. Right after that question back from Mr. Long. Sam did him a favor because he was about to talk more about his hires at Arkansas and how actually those things were essentially fine. But Sam just said we don't have to talk about Brett Bielema or specifically Bobby Petrino
wearing a neck brace at a press conference.
We don't even have to talk about that.
I mean, I know on the field wasn't great there, but they were exemplary members of the society, the community, I assume, right?
And vehicular safety.
Sam did Jeff a favor. And so like that whole part of all of that is to use Rudy's words, exemplary. Just press conference moment. Yeah, just a great press conference moment. Beards, can you play the part where Jeff Long actually really answers the question? Play this chunk again, because I think the fireworks and the weirdness of the previous interaction may have distracted some people's ears from the actual answer he gave.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been involved in college football my entire professional life. I've worked at a number of institutions. I worked in a number of conferences. I have worked in many different ways in college football, but I think I'm uniquely prepared, having been a college football coach at the Division I level at a Power 5 school early in my career, and then having worked at a number of Power 5 institutions along the way. So I'm confident in my knowledge. I'm confident in my experience, and I have no doubt that we can find the next great leader for the KU in the best interests of our student athletes.
The reason he should be allowed to hire the next head coach is that he's hired head coaches, that he's been around college football his entire life, and that he has confidence, which I will say largely, if not entirely, unearned based on his resume and record.
Missed a big part, though, there.
Is it that he's uniquely qualified?
He is uniquely qualified, Josh. Jeff
Long hired Bobby Petrino and Brett Bielema at Arkansas.
How many ADs out there have hired other coaches? It's a small number,
Almost,
right?
I mean, literally all of them, I think. Probably literally all of them. Jeff Long hired Bobby Petrino and Brett Bielema at Arkansas and Les Miles at Kansas. And his best argument for why he should hire the next head coach at Kansas is that he's been around college football forever. Jeff Long became the Arkansas AD in 2008. They hired Bobby Petrino. Then all of that happened. The Bobby Petrino era ended with a mistress who was a former volleyball player who was on the athletic staff that theoretically Jeff Long and Bobby Petrino would have needed to hire or know about, whatever. That ended with Bobby Petrino falling off of a motorcycle by himself. Whoops, not by himself. Uh-oh, neck brace at a press conference.
Safety first.
Then they had a year with John L. Smith. And if you say, who is John L. Smith?
Who's John L. Smith?
You're among friends.
Aw.
I learned today he signed a 10-month contract to bridge the gap with Arkansas being in a similar spot to where Kansas is right now. It would not surprise me at all that you have the the short-term head coach, that's definitely the interim head coach, whatever, while they try to figure out who they're going to bring in here because it's March. He signed a 10-month contract and then long-hired Brett Bielema, who was sub-500 in his time in Arkansas. Bielema and Long both got canned, and Arkansas has not recovered. This is Jeff Long's worst argument. Because again, look, I don't want to be revisionist. The package deal of Jeff Long, former SEC athletic director, and Les Miles, former national champion, that was incredibly alluring to my sensibilities, which is give me the big name to come try to fix the broken program. I also, if I was on a microphone at the time, probably would have been excited about Charlie Weiss, or at the very least would have thought it was going to be funny, and I would have been at least right in that regard. But if you come in off of back-to-back-to-back absolute faceplants, saying, look at my record is not the best way to argue for your continued employment. And these decisions are not made lightly. This is not even, I was going to say, Mitch Trubisky saying, well, I was number, they traded up to 2, right? I always want to say 3,
yes,
but
they
went
traded up from
second.
3 to 2.
They had to get the right quarterback. Mitch Trubisky saying, I was the number 2 overall pick. I was really excellent in college, or at least I looked like I was going to be excellent in the NFL in college. It's kind of tricky. And I've played a lot of NFL games. I've been in the league for a little while now, and you've won some games, and I think that I should get another year as the starter of the Chicago Bears. That would be a bad argument.
I think he has a better winning percentage than Deshaun Watson.
The best argument you could present at this point would be, I've learned from my mistakes. Here's where I am flawed. Here's where I have failed, and here's why I won't fail again. Because from Petrino to Bielema to Les Miles, you can point out fairly the fanfare that came at the beginning of those hires. Brett Bielema was trying something different in Arkansas, and Les Miles obviously came with all the fanfare that he came to Kansas. He came with an ESPN Plus show. It probably didn't age very well. You can say that the fanfare was tremendous, and that it was a widely praised hire at the time. That's totally fair to bring up. But in some ways, it makes it even more distressing in this current context. Because you don't need to have the hire that makes sense at the time. You need to have a hire that 2 years down the line, ideally 5 years down the line, you look back on and you go, wow, you know what? That was a good call. That was a good hire that helped push this program in the right direction. And I don't have any idea how Jeff Long could feel like he has made a cohesive argument for him to be the guy that ultimately hits the big red button and hires the next head coach. Maybe he could have thrown himself even more at, look, we're gonna go through our paces tenfold on the background checks this time. And I'm gonna have input from all of the people that I want to have input from. He talked about that a little bit. But anything about the actual failures itself would have been at least refreshing. To say, hey, you know what? I have had a couple of stinkers. Not saying, Arkansas obviously had some issues. In what regard? Bad football teams and a press conference and a neck brace. And in that regard, that would be the main regard. And instead it just comes off as this defensive defiance that, frankly, he has not even gotten close to having earned. And look, at this point, I'm not even talking about firing Jeff Long for the sins of Les Miles, right? I want to make that clear, actually. I think you could make an argument kind of in that vein. I'm just not even really kind of going down that path at the moment. I'm not saying Jeff Long was a part of some elaborate cover-up. I'm saying that this dude has struck out on 3 pitches. These last 3 pitches he's seen, it is a swing and a miss, a swing and a miss, and a swing and a miss. I'm saying I would not want this person picking the next head coach of any Power 5 college football team. The superpower that I was led to believe that he had whenever he came to Kansas was, I've known Les Miles for 30 years. And today, the whole crux of his press conference was, well, we weren't that close. He took the thing that was his selling point and tried to give it away when it backfired. Unless he's really good friends with just anyone in the Harbaugh family, I'm just not interested in his next choice. Just means absolutely nothing to me. And this is the reality of Kansas football also. This is where it lands us. Talking about these unique failures in these different ways that I just think anything other than, well, let's give it another go. Anything less than that would be really hard for me to argue on behalf of. Nick Schwerdt may have some different viewpoints on that. I saw him tweeting about a couple things earlier today, and I do think there's something to be said for KU football, the program, being in a better place now than it was whenever Les Miles arrived. It's also very hard for me to say that confidently and with a straight face. Their scholarship situation is better. Their transfer situation may be about to get much worse. We'll see. And it has been, yet again, a colossal failure. But you may ask, in what regard?
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Small business owners don't have the patience for nonsense, especially when it comes to their internet provider. They want the best services for the best price. Simply put, that's Spectrum Business. They give you great value, zero nonsense. Just call 833-919-2121. You'll get fast, reliable internet and phone with no contracts and no hidden fees, all for a price that could cut your bill in half. Spectrum Business. Call today, 833-919-2121.
When should you start collecting Social Security? Starting at the wrong age means you and your spouse could miss out on as much as $200,000 over the course of retirement. Do you have the right retirement plan in place to help you afford the rest of your life? If you're not sure, call 888-PLAN-RIC right now and schedule a free Social Security and retirement review from an experienced Edelman Financial Engines planner. You'll get an analysis of your Social Security situation as part of your overall retirement income, along with your pensions, savings, and 401k accounts. Plus, you'll get a comprehensive personal financial plan, an $800 value. It's all free. Call us at 888-PLAN-RIC by tonight, 10 p.m. Social Security is complicated. Don't let it drag down your retirement income. Call 888-PLAN-RIC by tonight, 10 p.m. That's 888-PLAN-RIC. Or visit rickedelman.com. That's rickedelman.com.
You know what makes good sense? Staying safe this holiday season while spending time with your family and friends. Let us cater your safe and happy holidays. Now that makes good sense. So take us home to your family. Who's to say you can't buy love? Just take a bite of a good sense of good sense. Good sense makes good sense.
Attention, men. Over half of you will suffer from erectile dysfunction. There is a solution. The Kansas City Men's Clinic. If you're having trouble getting or maintaining an erection or both, and regardless of age, medical condition, or performance issue, they can help. Call the Kansas City Men's Clinic today. For a limited time, a confidential consultation and all testing is only $99. Call 816-608-8189. That's 816-608-8189. Or go to thekansascitymensclinic.com.
For the latest on the Kansas City Royals, keep it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I left all the money talk to my agent and let him kind of deal with that. So, I was just wanting to get it done so I can get this season going. If I could choose, I'd be a Royal for life. I mean, this is the best organization in all of sports. It was a very easy decision for me. I want to be here. I want to win here.
Kansas City's home for Major League Baseball. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Harry's Razors just came out with their sharpest blades ever. But unlike other razor companies, they're not charging you more. Harry's new sharper blades are still as low as $2 each. You heard me right, just $2. How do they do it? Harry's owns a German factory that's been honing razor blades for 100 years. They source their steel from Sweden and own the entire manufacturing process, from research and development to the factory floor. It allows them to keep the prices lower. How confident are they? A 100% quality guarantee. You'll see it at harrys.com. Blades are even delivered directly to you. No getting unmasked and standing in line. They're delivered straight to your door, with or without a subscription. And right now, Harry's has a great offer for my listeners. New customers get $5 off a Harry's trial set when you use the promo code PETRO, P-E-T-R-O, at harrys.com. That's a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and travel cover, all for just $3, plus free shipping. That's razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and travel cover, all for $3, shipped to you for free. Only at harrys.com, only with promo code PETRO.
A reading from the Golden Oak Lending Book of Mortgage Lingo. What is Zipline? It's Golden Oak's fast and easy online mortgage tool that leaves you with more time to plan a family movie night.
I get to pick the movie.
And clean up the popcorn you weren't planning on sharing. At Golden Oak Lending, we speak mortgage and love translating it. Right now, rates are at a historic low 2.5%. Visit goldenoaklending.com to use Zipline. NMLS 114937, 2.5% fixed, 2.655% APR on a conventional 15-year mortgage with 30% equity and approved credit. JLB Corporation, 8595 College Boulevard, Overland Park, Kansas.
I've actually had customers halfway through showing them merchandise and saying, I guess I don't need to spend that much, do I?
Diamonds Direct 20-year jewelry professional and designer Enrique Chavez sees it every day. Customers amazed at how far their budgets will go.
Or on the other hand, a guy says, I'm not going to compromise, so let me go ahead and stretch my budget a bit. I never heard that anywhere else I worked.
And with Diamonds Direct's huge selection, you never have to compromise like you do at other places.
They usually are pushed in most stores to a specific color and clarity, whereas in our store we have such a vast amount of diamonds for them to look at. They're astonished.
So shop around Kansas City. But we promise you won't find a better value and lower prices than Diamonds Direct.
So they're getting more for their money than they can anywhere else in the city.
Diamonds Direct, Kansas City's direct diamond importer.
A wow experience. It's just utterly amazing.
At 119th and Row.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Chewy, we're home.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So last night, KU and Les Miles mutually parted ways. Les Miles got a $2 million buyout. A change below that. It's like $1.99 million. KU basically saves $6 million on the remainder of Les Miles' deal, but they're going to pay him essentially, as Jeff Long said right at the end of his press conference, through the remainder of this year. We'll talk to Nick Schwerdt of KLWN about that here in about 15 minutes, but I had one more clip from the Jeff Long press conference that goes right into the buyout sort of conversation here, and it's yet another somewhat kind of contentious back and forth. I really didn't think that Mellinger's was contentious from his sort of questioning. Jeff Long kind of escalated it. This instance, I feel like was coming in hot pretty much right out of the gate. The question that you'll hear is about KU settling with Les Miles despite that not necessarily matching up with all of the elements of Jeff Long's story from the beginning of the press conference. Listen to this exchange.
Jeff, this is Sandy Staples from The Athletic. You mentioned that you asked Les if there was anything that would embarrass the program or the university, and he said no. Wouldn't lying to you in that instance void his contract or make it where you could fire him for cause?
Andy, that's really a legal question as to how he could or couldn't respond at that time. But that was his response. And
but that is a lie. That is a lie to you, because there was something and now here you are embarrassed. So why would you pay him in this instance to leave?
That is debatable, whether that's a lie. And again, I'll leave that to our legal people to dice that out. So we felt it was important to move our program forward, that we needed to basically agree to mutually part and pay less through the remainder of 21 is basically what it comes out to. So.
Couple things here from the Twitter account of Andy Staples, the guy asking the question there. Someone tweeted to him, he lied on his resume. Why pay him at all? Andy Staples quote tweeted it saying, that's what I asked Jeff Long. He didn't really have an answer. And then someone else responded and said, these always settle. No one wants the litigation, especially when public scrutiny will turn on the school for not discovering this before hiring. Andy Staples quote tweeted that saying, not always. Sometimes the AD gets deposed and can't remember the names of the coaches he interviewed, and then they settle. Which is what happened to Jeff Long. He got deposed, could not remember the names of any of the coaches they had in-person interviews with, except for Les Miles.
You know that guy at Columbia State?
That's literally how
Chico
that was
Junior
going.
College.
Literally how he got somebody's name wrong. It's embarrassing.
There's
also,
that famous coach, William Snyder.
I also have discovered that Andy Staples' podcast on The Athletic is called The Andy Staples Show. And whenever he tweeted about a new episode of the show, he tweeted new A.S.S. And it spells ass.
Richard Saban?
Funny.
Do we think he talked to Richard Saban?
Who do you want them to hire here, Rudy? I know that you've been...
I got a couple guys.
You've been saying since 10:01 last night that you've got a list of hires that you'd like KU football to make.
Here's my number one. I'm going right off the bat with my number one. Because here's what I think KU's biggest problem has been. They're trying to run before they can walk.
Yep.
You can't be good until you've been mediocre.
Sure.
And you show me a coach in the history of football who knows how to build a mediocre program like Jeff Fisher.
Bring back the stash.
There ain't one.
Bring the stash to Lawrence.
Jeff Fisher, I know for a fact, is trying to get back into college football, or trying to become a head coach in college football. I know this for a fact because I've listened to him on a podcast say, I want to be a head coach in college football. Now, he wanted the Vanderbilt job because he lives in Nashville. They obviously decided to go a different route.
That's not that far.
It's
a quick commute.
Hey, Jeff Fisher, you love the outdoors. You like to hunt. You like to fish. We got some good hunting and fishing spots around here. I got an uncle who used to take Wade Davis hunting and stuff. I'll hook you up.
Rudy, hook you up, coach.
I got you.
Come announce on this show, Jeff Fisher, that you'd like the KU job.
I got you.
We'll be here for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm here for this. Sure. Why not?
In all seriousness.
Whoa. In continuing seriousness.
Thank
you.
There is a because he was asked. Jeff Long was asked about potentially hiring somebody with ties to KU, somebody who loves the university. So
Jeff Fisher could learn to love the university.
So I've got an alum for you.
Okay.
He's a young up and coming offensive coordinator at South Florida.
Okay.
Who has a degree from the University of Kansas. Has ties to Kansas. Went to high school in Kansas City. Honestly, lived here quite a bit. Dad's got ties to the Chiefs. Also to KU. Can I entice you with a little Charlie Weiss Jr.?
No, you certainly cannot.
He's a 27-year-old offensive coordinator. He's a KU alum.
No, I don't think you. I'm sorry.
What do we do?
I don't think you can.
It's the obvious hire.
I don't think you can. Harold Kuntz of Fox 4, friend of the show, tagged me in a tweet about
Eric Bieniemy.
That high school. No, let's not get crazy.
He needs to prove at the college level.
Yeah, he can be the offensive coordinator at KU if he wants.
Running backs coach, work your way up a little.
Harold tweeted me about the high school coach and somewhere in the South, I think.
Arkansas, yes.
Who never punts.
I forgot his name.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be my third choice.
I'll take that guy.
And that was honestly, I would 100 here because again, to continue the seriousness, there is a little bit in the sense that KU has not been able to make this work for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a little bit of, hey, why not try just something different?
Sure.
And that can be the Arkansas guy. It could also be, and this wouldn't necessarily be fun to watch, but Jeff Monken has done an amazing job at Army. And if all of a sudden you just came out with a triple option that just threw everybody off, again, would it be that much fun to watch? Probably not. But he also almost beat Oklahoma. Like, they were beating Oklahoma in the fourth quarter of a game. So it's like, now, I think he would come in and turn KU into like a team that beats Oklahoma? No, they beat Oklahoma probably like once every 10. But like, there is a sense of like, maybe KU should just try something so crazy.
I can't think of anything crazier than having the strategy of we're never going to punt after KU's strategy for the last decade has been we're only going to punt.
And I feel like if you're going to do something different, you go one of those two ways. You either get the guy who is going to basically throw the ball 99 times a game and never punt, or you go get the guy who's going to throw the ball once per game, and you're just gonna have the ball for 50 minutes.
Yeah, I have my own suggestion on who should get hired for KU's next head coach.
Please,
listen. This guy, he's been around college football for a long time.
Is it Charlie Weiss?
He's coached before.
Is it Les Miles?
He's uniquely qualified to do it.
Nick Saban.
Jeff Long. Let's get Jeff Long.
Oh,
double
great.
duty.
Good point.
Great call, Beards. Great call.
Good
Has
point.
experience on several levels, as you said, is
Or
uniquely
you could
qualified.
just fire him from the AD position and hire him as head coach. Bring somebody else in.
No, see, Beers, you're missing it. Double duty. You save money. Instead of paying a full salary for a head coach and an AD, you're basically paying a salary and a half for two spots.
He goes from
Give
being
him a little bump because he's obviously got extra work, needs a little extra money. Sure.
He goes from being Jeff Long to being like Jeff O'Longin, basically. And no, we're in Bill O'Brien territory at this point. He's basically becomes collegiate Bill O'Brien. I think that's our winner right there.
I like this.
Continuing in seriousness, can I read the internet real quick, Beards?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
And now, Josh reads the internet.
This is from the aforementioned Sam Mellinger column that went up on kansascity.com a little bit ago. That's an absolute certified club banger. He's talking here about Bobby Petrino. But here I have to tell you that I never heard, unsolicited, some of the nicest and most positive people I know tell horror stories about Petrino. Normally I would not bring this up, but 4 years after Long tied his professional reputation to Petrino, as the football coach was fired after a motorcycle accident began to unravel a significant ball of lies. He was not riding alone, as he originally said, but with a young woman he hired and was cheating on his wife with. Long blamed it all on Petrino and his lies. This is where the narrator clears his throat and asks if anyone sees a pattern, but that's not how big boy jobs work. If you take the credit, you must also take the blame. Arkansas didn't get out of its image and fundraising problems by playing the victim. He then goes on to talk about the issues that Arkansas faced and a series of issues with Jeff Long, highlighting the fact that Long blamed the unraveling at Arkansas on Bobby Petrino and all of his lies. Today, Jeff Long came out in part of his opening statement that was written, clearly previously prepared, and talked about how Les Miles lied, and that's why we're in the place we are today.
They're not very good friends, guys. I don't know where we got this from.
As Sam said, this is where the narrator clears his throat and asks if anyone sees a pattern.
That was a harmful rumor.
That they were friends?
Yeah.
That was the biggest lie, was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. They tell you the real treasure is the friends you made along. No. Don't make friends, kids.
It's just...
They're only going to lie to you about some allegations at a former school.
Even through the kaleidoscope of Kansas football, this is an impressive series of events.
Can we give Nick Saban, or not Nick Saban,
I'd love a name.
Wow, the Ole Miss coach. Why did I just drop his name?
Hour's almost over.
Oh, Lane Kiffin. Give him a blank check.
Gotta tell you, I thought about making a Mike Leach joke earlier and everything.
Oh, man.
At this point, I don't think
Blank
Jeff Long should do a no back-looking blank check on anybody at this point. I think those privileges are gone.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
wasn't doing anything different, wasn't trying to train for a marathon or compete in American Ninja Warrior, was just playing racquetball with my buddies, and that's how the injury happened.
That led to Achilles surgery and years of chronic pain for Will Burt, a patient at QC Kinetics.
There's always been tenderness and inflammation, and I had the surgery to repair the tendon, but it didn't repair my quality of life.
Desperate for relief, Will tried the regenerative cell treatments at QC Kinetics, and finally the pain was gone.
The good news is it's a solution without having to go under the knife, a solution that my body can kind of regenerate and take care of itself versus surgery, pain pills, rehab, and all that goes along with that.
Patients like Will are raving over the results. Call QC Kinetics today for your free consultation. 816-412-6299.
Thanks to the guys at QC Kinetics, quality of life is just a lot better.
QC Kinetics, off 435 and State Line. 816-412-6299. $62.99.
Hey, it's Todd Lebo here for CertaPro Painters. They've done great work at my house. Inside, outside, it's always great. From the estimate to the prep work to the cleanup, worry-free all the way. Give them a call for a free estimate, 1-800-GO-CERTA. That's 1-800-GO-CERTA, or go to CertaPro.com for more information. Now is a great time to update your home. There's no reason to wait. Call 1-800-GO-CERTA or visit CertaPro.com today to experience the CertaPro Painters difference for yourself. It's CertaPro Painters, proven and trusted experts in painting.
The Open Season Sportsman's Expo Series is headed to the Overland Park Convention Center Friday, March 12th through Sunday, March 14th. The Kansas City Open Season Sportsman's Expo will be filled with the latest products, gear, and equipment for hunting, fishing, and outdoor enthusiasts. Attendees can meet industry insiders and celebrities, attend educational seminars and demonstrations, test out the newest products, shop for special show deals, and bring their deer to have it scored in the Trophy Deer Contest. For information and tickets, visit OpenSeasonSportsman'sExpo.com.
Love the new car smell but think the car shopping process stinks? Check out OneRequest.com. Hi, this is Eric Westfall. We started OneRequest in Kansas City to make car shopping easy. We have over 5 million new and used listings. And with OneRequest, you don't share your personal information with sellers until you want to, which means you control your car shopping experience. We even have a concierge service for those who want the VIP treatment. Experience car shopping made easy. Request your car today at OneRequest.com.
OneRequest is not responsible for what you do with all the time you save.
Save on your next project with 11% off everything. Now at Menards. DuraClean is an interior paint and primer in one that offers a washable, scrubbable, and stain-resistant finish. Pick up a gallon of flat paint today for only $19.98 after 11% rebate. Save with 11% off everything. Now at Menards. Good through Saturday, March 13th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Sports Radio 810 WHB, Lewisburg Ford, and Aldi are partnering to help cram the van with donations for the Salvation Army and local food banks. On March 10th, stop by Lewisburg Ford at 111 Fairland Drive in Lewisburg, find the Lewisburg Ford van, and fill it up with items for those in need. So mark your calendar for Wednesday, March 10th, and fill up the Lewisburg Ford van. Together, let's make a difference. Brought to you by Lewisburg Ford, the home of $50 over factory invoice pricing, and Aldi. Shop differently.
Hey, this is Stephen St. John for Window Nation. That recent blast of winter didn't just test your patience, it tested the integrity of your home's windows. Did they fog up? Frost up? Were they sweating with condensation? Could you feel cold air coming in? You need new windows. But that's actually good news because Window Nation's virtual home show extravaganza is going on now. Get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. There's no limit. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 24 months. Call Window Nation today for these once-a-year savings. But hurry, this offer is for a limited time. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and pay nothing for 2 full years. As a special bonus, call 866-90-NATION now and get a Nest thermostat with a house of windows. Call today for this buy now, pay later offer. 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and please tell them Stephen St. John sent you.
Hey sports fans, Joni here, and I'm excited to tell you about the newly opened In the Zone Cryo. In the Zone Cryo will help decrease pain and inflammation, accelerate muscle recovery, increase your energy, and boost your immune system. In the Zone Cryo also offers Instasculpt fat reduction, personal training, infrared heat, compression therapy, and more. Mention Sports Radio 810 and receive 10% off your first service. Come see us at College and Metcalf. Call 913-208-4859 or visit inthezonecryo.com. Feel, look, and perform your best with In the Zone Cryo.
Kansas City's favorite sports station, 20 years and counting. Sports Radio 810 WHB, Kansas City.
Sports Center. I'm Steve Lennox. 5 NCAA Conference Tournament title games tonight. Just wrapping up on ESPN. Cleveland State going to the big dance. Cleveland State wins the Horizon League Championship. 80-69 win against Oakland on ESPN2 right now. The Northeast Conference title game. Mount St. Mary's and Bryant. That game under 2 minutes to go. Mount St. Mary's leading 66-58. The Colonial Tournament Championship game. Drexel has gone final and Victoria 63-56 over Elon. The ESPN college basketball analyst Sean Farnham on the matchup coming up on ESPN TV between number 1 Gonzaga and BYU in the West Coast Conference title game.
They are so elite in understanding that at any point in time, there is 4 guys out on the floor that could score 20 points, and we've seen it over the course of the year. Corey Kispert is playing at an All-American level. Jalen Suggs is going to be a top 5 pick. Drew Timme has the most elite footwork of any big in the country.
That's ESPN's Sean Farnham. Zags 25-0, chance to become the first team to enter the NCAA tournament with a perfect record since Kentucky did it back for the 2014-2015 season. Sixers Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons will both miss Thursday's game in Chicago against the Bulls. Both players continue with contact tracing that kept them out of the All-Star game on Sunday in Atlanta. Georgia Simmons is also going to miss Friday's game for Philadelphia against Washington. Yankee reliever Zach Britton will have surgery to remove a bone chip in his left elbow. Team will make a announcement on the timetable for his return after the surgery is complete.
Coming up Wednesday, we'll unveil my first on-point rankings and tell you the NBA's best players who have never won a title and why James Harden may not be on the list for long. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin, Wednesday morning on ESPN Radio.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Hey, I'm Nick Schwerdt from the radio. You might have heard of me. You're going to give me as much Arby's sauce as possible, or you're going to hear about it coming up on Monday at 3 o'clock. Like, that's the line I give them. And, of course, it'll work because how could it not?
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You can hear him weekdays on Rock Chalk Sports Talk on KLWN in Lawrence. Not just the words that he speaks, but also the sound of just Arby's sauce dripping all over the studio. Nick Schwerdt joins us now here tonight on Almost Entirely Sports. Nick, hell of a day you're having, I have to imagine, huh? That's my first question.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, usually first couple of weeks of March, we're really gearing up for basketball season. I don't even know why I called it fun. I mean, people's lives are changing and people are probably upset. But, I mean, come on. We get in the business to talk about big days like today, and today certainly hasn't been short on news and stories to talk about. So I'm excited to be on with you tonight.
It's been fun, I think, in the having something to talk about sort of side of things, but it's also been absolutely bat bleep crazy. So many, especially whenever you mix in a little David McCormack, COVID protocols, all of that, which we may get to later on, maybe, which is a pretty good indicator of how today has gone. But I mean, let's step back to last night. We had like 3 minutes left in the show as the news broke that KU and Les Miles were mutually agreeing to part ways, or as I've said, Les Miles was mutually parted ways with. Then you go back a couple days further, and we're having really I think the day before, you've got administrative leave. Maybe that was Friday. Then you have days before that, the USA Today reports. Really, from where we were when those reports started dropping to where we are tonight, a lot of ground has been covered. How have you been along for the ride throughout that process, culminating in the Jeff Long presser today that we'll talk more about in a second?
Well, I think I would start with the idea that Kansas football, as crazy as this sounds, Kansas football is in a better place today than they were yesterday. And yet they're in a better place today than they were 2.5 years ago when Jeff Long hired Les Miles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think necessarily I would characterize Les Miles' tenure as a successful one.
Right.
But he left the program in better shape than it was when he inherited it.
Mm-hmm.
But also he had to go. And honestly, man, like, I know I could, like, and I know a lot of people do this, and I'm not trying to downplay the significance of it. I think the idea that Les Miles was fired because of the sexual harassment stuff being brought to light from 2013, like, it's very real. That's obviously why he's gone. But I feel like you could have probably fired him beforehand. And honestly, as weird as it sounds, the fact that that stuff came to light forced KU to do something that they probably wouldn't have been able to pull off had it not come to light. Does that make sense? Like Les Miles showed in so many variety of ways he was unfit to lead a Power 5 football program. Like, I don't know if I would hire him to coach a D3 football program. I don't know if I would hire him to coach a high school football program. But they wouldn't have been able to fire him 2 years into his contract without this stuff coming to light. And yeah, they didn't fire him. They paid him $2 million to walk away. Had they fired him, they probably would have had to pay him triple that, if not quadruple that. You know, who knows what that would have looked like had he not agreed to sort of quietly walk away and sort of never be heard from again, which I think is ultimately what's kind of going to happen with Les Miles. So that's kind of where I've been. Like, things happen quickly and you react to each little nugget of information. And I think when you do that, sometimes you have a tendency to lose perspective on the big picture. And the big picture is that KU's better for not having Les Miles be their head coach anymore. They're also better because he was here for 2 years.
It's such a unique dichotomy that, I mean, to be honest, like, the math just on its face does not make sense. Like, it seems impossible for all of those things to be true at once. So I guess if unpack for me a little bit, I guess the this week stuff, really, where you had lost faith that Les Miles should be in charge of a football program of any size, but also that the program is in a better place now than it was when David Beatty left it.
I mean, Josh, have you ever heard him speak in a press conference? I mean, seriously. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to go there because they're like, well, you know, don't make fun of the way I got. He's the head coach of a Power 5 football program.
Yeah.
And he can't string coherent sentences together.
Yeah.
That not strike anybody else as maybe a bit of an issue?
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, okay, well, that's just one thing, right? How about the fact that 40-plus of his assistant coaches have left for either lateral or outright worse jobs? I mean, Brent Dearman left his position at KU to take the same position at Middle Tennessee State.
Yes.
Now, either he thought that was a better opportunity for him because Middle Tennessee State is simply a better program, or maybe he looked at the situation that he was in at Kansas and said, if I stick around here, it's going to ruin my career.
Yeah.
And you can draw your own conclusions and fill in the blanks however you want. I'm not naive enough to think that all these guys just decided, you know what, I think there's better opportunities. I think they looked at their current opportunity and said it can't be worse than this.
Yeah.
So you start to sort of pile some of these things together, and you say it's like that saying about, you know, when you're dating someone and you say, well, they kind of have an annoying laugh. That's not a deal breaker, right? Mm-hmm. Or their friends are sort of rude. Well, that on its own isn't a deal breaker.
I mean, how rude we talking about?
She's got a dog. Yeah, you know, she got a dog I doesn't like her. She smokes. None of those things individually are deal breakers. You pile them all together and you say, we have a problem here.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't going to work. And that's where I think Kansas found itself at with Les Miles after 2 years.
How are things better then? What improved over the last couple of years?
I think that there's better talent now than there was when he got here. Like, the one thing I'll give Les Miles credit for is simply being a man of his word. Like, he said he was going to come in and recruit high school players, and I'll be damned if he didn't come in and recruit high school players. Now, the level of that talent, like how great were those classes, like, we'll find out. We'll find out in another year or two how good these players are that he brought in. And I also don't think that we can necessarily say that was all Les Miles. Like, he brought in assistant coaches who went out and got some of those guys. Again, you don't completely say he had nothing to do with that, but a guy like Emmett Jones, who's still there as the wide receivers coach, like a lot of these big-name recruits, or the 4-star kids, 3-star kids from the Dallas, Fort Worth, Metroplex area, those were Emmett Jones guys, and he went out and brought those guys in from the high school ranks. We saw what happened under previous regimes. I don't need to go through all of it, but Charlie Weiss taking shortcuts, going after JUCO guys. He gets run out of town. David Beatty comes in, blames all of his issues on Charlie Weiss, which for the first couple of years were Charlie Weiss problems. But then he exacerbated them by continuing to do the same exact thing that he was complaining that his predecessor did. Les Miles didn't do that. For 2 years, he did not go out and get JUCO guys. So I do give him credit for that. So I think the roster that is currently there is better. It will be better for the guy who comes next than it was for him when he got here. So that is the regard where I think it's better for Les Miles. And I can say that it's better and I give him credit for it, but also, like, you could have been hired for the job, Josh, and said, I'll recruit high school guys. And then you would have went out and recruited high school guys, and I would say the same thing. I'd say, well, he sucked at everything else, but at least he did what he said he was going to do in that one regard. So for that, I will give him credit and acknowledge that KU's in a better position now.
I think that's all outrageously fair. I think it's a super unique sort of autopsy on the Les Miles era, but I think it's totally fair that you can point and say, here are the smoldering embers of things that were left behind by Les Miles, and here's all the just an absolute parade of red flags, and the assistants. I did not know the number was around 40. That's
I
absolutely outrageous.
I didn't know that either.
Absolutely outrageous.
I believe it's higher than 40. I don't have an exact number for you, but it does seem to grow by the day. And those are things like those are little nuggets that come out where, like, the assistant linebackers coach leaves a job for James Madison. I don't know. I'm just making something up. But when that happens, it's such a tiny footnote that it doesn't register with anyone.
Yeah.
Until you take a step back and realize, oh, that's the 40th guy or that's the 30th guy who's done that in the last 2 years. Like, guys were leaving by the boatload, and each time it would happen, it would just sort of be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Oh, that's kind of weird. You pile them all together, it seems like it's a bit of an issue.
Yeah. So with that, again, maybe that's the moratorium on Les Miles. Obviously, if he comes up throughout one of the other things here, then so be it. But today, for me at this point, there was obviously Les Miles stuff in the Jeff Long press conference today. But really, for me, this press conference was about Jeff Long. And I have no idea if this is how KU was looking at it. But for me, I heard this press conference was going to be happening. And then I listened to this entire press conference. And the question I was waiting to be answered from Jeff Long is, why should I, whenever the show starts tonight, why should I say into this microphone that, you know what, I actually do think Jeff Long should hire the next football coach? And I saw you even tweeting about, like, concerns about the recruiting class and what all may come into play there. And I really would like to know how much that plays into your mindset in terms of the next steps to come. But what did you think? What were you hoping to hear from Jeff Long's press conference today? And then what do you think it either did or didn't tell you?
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't say I was shocked, but if you would have told me yesterday that KU was going to allow Jeff Long to hold a press conference, I would have been pretty surprised.
Me too.
I was, and then when they had their news release last night and announced that they were parting ways, and you had the Jeff Long quote, at that point you started to say, okay, well, if he's quoting if he's giving a quote on the fact that this guy is leaving, are they really gonna let him stick around? Because it sounds like, why would you let this guy give a quote if you're gonna fire him too?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the press release came out, they were having a Jeff Long press conference. They go, okay, well, they're keeping this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into that press conference, Josh, thinking, I guess Jeff Long is sticking around. And by the end of it, I'm thinking, there's no way they can let this guy stick around. I'm back to square one.
Yeah.
Are you seriously
Yeah.
going to allow this man? And, like, this is sort of like the big overarching theme. But anybody who has time, I don't know anybody who would want to spend their time doing this. But if you're interested, I have a little project for you. Go back and watch the press conference from 2018 when Jeff Long fired David Beatty and announced they were going to start a nationwide search for the next head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to note the tone and the confidence that Jeff Long stood in that press conference with, and compare it to the tone and confidence, or lack thereof, that he conveyed today. That looked like a man who was nervous, he was defensive, he was skittish, he was skirting questions, and I don't blame him for doing any of that.
Yeah.
Because if I were him, I'd be walking around on eggshells every single day wondering if this is going to be the last day. Now, we can get into the complications of his contract and the leverage that he may have versus a lack of leverage that Les Miles had, but I wasn't really going. I mean, I was wondering the same questions as everybody else, like how much did you know? What kind of questions did you ask Les Miles when you were doing the vetting process back in 2018? Well, why'd you pay him to go away? All the big questions that were asked that he, in most cases, gave sort of half answers on, which is, that's press conferences. This is a legal issue. Like, I get it. I'm not necessarily going to blame him for that. That's the way these things go. But you can't paint a picture for me that would say, like, is anybody out there saying Jeff Long had a slam dunk press conference today?
No, it's an indefensible opinion.
At times he got caught contradicting himself. I mean, dude, the exchange he had with Sam Mellinger, like, that's the stuff they're going to be playing on Fayetteville radio tomorrow.
Yep.
And there's going to be people in Fayetteville laughing at him, like laughing at the fact that this guy would try to sit there and act like he made good hires at Arkansas. It's like that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin when they're playing poker and Steve Carell's character is like trying to convince all these guys, like, oh, yeah, I had a girlfriend and she was such a freak and she would just say that. And they're all like looking at each other like, dude, you're a virgin, aren't you? That's what happened today with Jeff Long. We're all looking at him like, what? Seriously, you really think that you made good hires? Like, what? Who are you trying to convince right now of this just unbelievably asinine sort of idea that Bobby Petrino and Brett Bielema were good hires at Arkansas? The idea that he sat there and said, I asked Les Miles if there was anything in his past that could come back to embarrass us. He said no. They continued to do more vetting, which gave him a level of comfortability, and I'm paraphrasing now, that, hey, this guy didn't have anything in his past. And then the very last thing that comes out of his mouth during that press conference was that it was debatable as to whether or not Les Miles lied to him back in 2018. And maybe that is a legal issue. Maybe there's a reason he couldn't come right out and say, I can't sit here publicly and say that I know he lied. But what you can do is answer the question as to why did you pay him $2 million to go away? Yeah. And I get it. Like, you don't want to get wrapped up in years and years of lawsuits, especially considering what Kansas has gone through over the past couple of years. But there's no easy way out of it, which is why KU was screwed today. No matter what, there was nothing that could have been said by Jeff Long or anybody else that was going to make people feel better about the current state of this athletic department and the direction of this football program. Like, the foundation is there, but I don't know how you can have any trust in the guy who is pulling the strings and making the decisions. And quite frankly, I am pretty surprised that Chancellor Douglas Durrad and the powers that be at that university are continuing to trot this guy out there and allowing him to be their public face of the athletic department.
The only thing I would even add to a syllable of any of that answer is simply how poor of a job Jeff Long did of making his case for himself. That's the only thing that I think we dug in on more during the first hour of the show tonight that you didn't explicitly highlight, is that with the exchange with Sam. An absolutely outrageous exchange that will live in sports press conference history forever, where he pretended that Bob Petrino and Brett Bielema were good hires at Arkansas. The actual question that Sam asked him was, why should anyone have faith that you should hire the next guy and that you'll do a good job with that? And Jeff Long's answer was essentially, I've been doing all of this for a long time, and scoreboard. Except for the scoreboard shows a blowout loss that he's on the wrong side of. Like, even we can pick it like the delivery in press conferences. We can pick it at the body language and the tone and some contradictions. But man, he didn't even have an argument in there anywhere. Like, it just felt like on almost every level it was just about as big a failure as I think you could have possibly feared, which sort of redoubles my thought that you just mentioned, is how long can KU decide that this is going to be the guy who's the face for KU to get it right next time, whenever we've been seeing that rope-a-dope for a decade now?
The phrase that I think is going to be reiterated over and over again in reference to Jeff Long in today's press conference is uniquely qualified. Uniquely qualified. And then he proceeded to give 0 unique qualities that he possesses, other than the fact that he's worked in athletics for a long time.
Yes.
Like, okay, you want to go look at Jeff Long's resume? He is a gypsy of an athletic director. He has held, I think, 4 different full-time athletic director positions and then 4 other assistant athletic directors. Whoever you think, like, the best athletic directors in the country are, I mean, Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma, Gene Smith at Ohio State, Jack Swarbrick at Notre Dame. Like, those guys, if they're not lifers, they've had 1 or 2 jobs. Jeff Long has had many, many jobs because he hasn't been very good at any of them. And we harp on the football hirings at Oklahoma State, at Arkansas, of Brett Bielema and Bobby Petrino, both of which were abhorrent. Like, he hired Mike Anderson, and that wasn't a good hire either. So, like, it's not just football. It's basketball as well. And you look at it, like, let's just look at his blunders, not just hiring blunders, but the mistakes that he has made in the 3+ years that he's been the athletic director of Kansas. You apologized for Snoop Dogg at late night, even though none of your fans or your alumni or anybody in attendance asked you to apologize or even act like they were even slightly offended. Right. You apologized for KU's role in the brawl last year against Kansas State, while K-State got to sit back and say, okay, well, guess they're taking the blame for this one. You hired Les Miles, who, again, struggles to string together coherent sentences. You looked at that guy and said, he'll do. Yep. This is the guy who's going to come in and take over this football program. You decided not to pay David Beatty the $3 million he owed in his buyout. I can't believe we've gotten this long into this conversation and not touched on that. Yeah. Had Jeff Long simply gave David Beatty the money he was owed on his contract, you know how different we'd be talking about this today? Because you know what they wouldn't have? You know what we wouldn't have on Jeff Long? We wouldn't have a deposition where he fails to name any of the other guys that he interviewed alongside Les Miles back in 2018. We wouldn't have went back and reviewed the Miles to Go film to find out that he had camera crews in Les Miles' house before they even offered him the position. Jeff Long, every step of the way, has made his own bed. And at this point, I'm wondering if there's anybody at KU who's going to make him sleep in it. Maybe they're broke. Maybe he has leverage. Maybe those are all factors that are leading to him being able and allowed to step in front of a microphone today. But I'll tell you one thing, Josh. I talked to a couple of alumni and donors today, and we were just sort of shooting the breeze. It wasn't anything official, and I said to one of them, it kind of feels like KU athletics is sort of a laughing stock right now. And he said, there ain't no kinda about it. We are a laughing stock, and it's sort of embarrassing to be affiliated with the university right now. And when you see a guy like Jeff Long go up there and speak to the media in such an unconvincing fashion today, I don't know how Douglas Girard and the people who are not just affiliated with the university but who are in charge of the university can look at that and see it as an acceptable sort of man. I mean, we're talking about Jeff Long, but the role, the job that he's done, how you could view that as acceptable in any definition of that word. I don't know if anything's going to happen immediately. I don't know if anything's going to happen at all. But find me somebody who thinks that Jeff Long has done an adequate job in his role as athletic director at Kansas. I dare you to do it.
One of the other elements of that from today that is so baffling to me is because I'm trying to figure out what could he have done that would have made today go better. I think there are a lot of potential answers to that. But one thing is that instead of just saying, I've had jobs in college sports for a very long time. Trust me, I'm Jeff Long, which is still kind of a weird flex, but okay. I'm so glad you mentioned the Snoop Dogg thing, because listen to this, okay? I'm going to just read you a paragraph. I take full responsibility for not thoroughly vetting all the details of the performance and offer my personal apology to those who were offended. We strive to create a family atmosphere at Kansas and fell short of that this evening. He took more responsibility for Snoop Dogg having acrobatic dancers than he did about Les Miles. He took more responsibility for Snoop Dogg.
You
what
know
are
why?
we doing?
He was in the honeymoon back then. You think Jeff Long had any concerns about his job security back then? Everybody loved Jeff Long when they hired him because he jumped into the pool to hand an award to the swim team, because he ate ketchup off a plate and said that's just how he is. He was this sort of quirky, funny athletic director who everybody sort of liked. And the Snoop Dogg thing, like going back to hey, it's just one thing, right? Yeah, he probably should have done that, but oh well. That was almost like, you look back on it, it's like foreshadowing, a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
It's funny, you're right. There's so many different scenarios and situations where you go back and just look at the way he sort of conveyed his level of confidence. Just look at the sort of way he carried himself back then, and look at the way that he carried himself today. He's a guy who knows, I might be on my last leg here at Kansas, and I think he has every right to feel that way.
How much longer do you think this plays out? Do you think it's a foregone conclusion that KU eventually says we can't do this anymore? What are the odds that he's still the AD?
It's going to come down to money. It'll come down to money, because you heard him say today when I think it was Matt Tate asked him, where's that $2 million going to come from that you owe Les Miles? And he said, it's going to come from athletics. It's going to come from donors, but it won't be any money taken from the university. Okay. So you pay him $2 million, but you still have to go sign a head coach. And I have no earthly idea how much money they're going to offer a prospective head coaching candidate, but you're still going to need money for that. And you're still going to have to go to donors and ask them for money. And that's who's going to basically decide this. Because those donors will either say, okay, yep, here you go, here's some money, go get our guy. Or they're going to say, I ain't giving any money to you.
Yeah.
I'll give money to the university, but I'm not letting you decide how to spend it. So that, to me, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't. I don't have an answer as to whether or not Jeff Long's going to be around. I don't have an answer as to whether or not Douglas Gerard's going to be around. And I don't know enough about Douglas Gerard and the job he's done outside of athletics to know whether or not this guy is, a good chancellor. But he hired Jeff Long, and we're seeing now that was a bad hire. We can talk about Jeff Long making a bad hire for Les Miles. Well, Douglas Gerard made a bad hire.
Yeah.
Jeff Long ill-suited to do this job. So who exactly is controlling those decisions? Is the Board of Regents going to step up, the people who are in charge of hiring a chancellor, and say, that guy's got to go? Can't have this guy representing the university. There are big-time players who are going to be making these decisions. So it's tough for me to sit here as a radio host and say, yeah, I know exactly how this is going to play out, because I don't think there are very many people who know ultimately how this is going to go with Jeff Long. So I'm kind of like you, man. I'm just sort of sitting here and sort of day by day waiting to see what happens. But I would say this. I would say, like I said earlier, I feel less confident about Jeff Long being here for the long term today than I did last night.
I definitely don't expect you to have a definitive answer to this, but just you are going to have a better idea about this than I am, and I'm genuinely curious. Do you think it would let me phrase this the way that my bias is currently leaning. I think I would have an easier time if I had to go raise money from KU donors. I feel like I would have an easier time selling hope in the program and a fresh start and saying, hey, we are going to need some money to get Jeff Long out of here, but once we do, whatever you invest is going to be how we reset this program. Maybe that message at this point, maybe it's fool me 17 bleeping times, shame on me. But I feel like I would have an easier time pitching that than I would, hey, give us money to hire a head coach. Yeah, Jeff Long is going to pick him again, though.
Yeah, I think so, too. I would wonder, though, because remember when Jeff Long took over, he got the clause in his contract that said if KU were to get into trouble with the NCAA and put on probation, his contract automatically extended for however many years KU is put on probation for.
Yeah, heck of a clause.
So, yeah, but that seems like so long ago.
It really does.
But sitting here in 2021, we still don't have finality or closure on that NCAA investigation. Like, it's still going through the IARP, and we don't have a definitive answer onto when that is going to receive finality. And I've heard, I've talked to people, I think Jesse Newell of the KC Star has reported that he expects it to be wrapped up by this fall, but we don't really know because it's sort of uncharted waters what KU is doing with his IARP. So I would assume that if Jeff Long were to be relieved and the next guy were to come in, like, he would have sort of the same sort of hesitations or would want the same sort of assurances that Jeff Long did. Like, nobody's getting that again. I have no earthly idea what KU was thinking when putting that stipulation into Jeff Long's contract, but I also wonder how much that stipulation gives Jeff Long leverage right now. Because whereas Les Miles did not want to engage in a public legal battle where his name is going to be next to the words sexual harassment for the next 12 to 24 months. Like, he didn't want that. Nobody wants that. So it was in his best interest to go away quietly, just as it was in KU's best interest to pay him to go away quietly. Not quite the same situation when we're talking about Jeff Long. Like, Jeff Long may say, I don't have any problem with engaging in a legal battle to get my money. Like, my contract says this, that, and that. Good luck firing me.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't have that much leverage. But I do think he has way less incentive to go away quietly than Les Miles did. So I don't even really know if I answered your question, but I just kind of got carried away there.
I think it's a good point. I don't remember if it answered my question or not. I don't even remember my question. It's not important. It was a good answer. Good,
I don't either.
Great answers make the questions irrelevant. I don't think that's true, but I'm going to say that now and believe it. I'll make this.
If only Jeff Long would have known that about 5.5 hours ago.
Hey, listen, I think he was uniquely qualified to be in that press conference. In what regard? Who could say? Rudy is a uniquely qualified guy. I'm an in what regard guy personally.
First hour of the podcast is actually titled Jeff Long is uniquely qualified.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Wow.
And so this is how you can tell that Rudy's handling the podcasting, is because if I did the first hour, it would be Les Miles is gone in what regard. That's probably what I would have done. But that's a good. They're both good.
My titles are better.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Your spelling is worse, but your titles are better.
Spelling's, it's you only got to be right like 90% of the time to be a good speller, I would say.
I wouldn't say that, but that's how you and I are different, I think.
I'm uniquely qualified. What can I say?
Damn it.
In what regard?
Last one for you, Nick. I don't need you to. I'm not going to ask you for head coaching names. I don't care. We'll cross that bridge when we get much closer to it.
Charlie Weiss Jr. maybe. KU alum.
Turn off his mic.
Up and coming offensive coordinator.
I am much more interested in how you would categorize this job. And I know that it's impossible to actually answer that without knowing if the AD is also changing or not right now. But I just have seen so many different angles of literally no one will take this job to actually the KU job is a good job. It's a Power 5 job. I'd fall somewhere in between, probably closer to it's a really terrible job, but eventually someone is going to take it. How would you characterize the KU head coaching position? From the perspective of like an incoming candidate, I should say.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to what we started off talking about, I do think that it's a more attractive position now than it was 2 years ago,
right.
Which, like, I've seen some people push back on that. I mean, all you have to do is go back and look at that roster from 2018. It was atrocious. And you've got some young talent on defense. You've got some really good talent on the secondary. You bring in, Quay Davis, a 4-star wide receiver from Texas this year. Like, there's some pieces there. You still have issues, obviously. You don't know what your answer is a quarterback. You don't have really much to go off of on the offensive line. There's at least enough talent there to make, I think, a competent head coach look at it and say, I could do something with that, right? I could work with that. But what we know is that there are still a litany of issues, and some of which are more short-term, and some of them are more you're not doing anything to fix that. Like, you have geographical issues. You have sort of for the lack of fertile recruiting grounds type issues. And you've got the idea that, like we've talked about for 30 minutes, you've got an athletic director who may not make that job all that attractive when you've got a guy who's sort of this frontward-facing dude who constantly has to stick his foot in his mouth. Because what I think the type of guy KU should be going after is the antithesis of these C-list football celebrities like Charlie White and Les Miles, who are there to cash some checks, to get some notoriety, to get on a TV show, to give their kids some jobs or some starting positions on the football team, and then walk away with a pile of cash after a couple of years. I think you need a guy who's going to put his nose to the grindstone, not look for attention, have this sort of buttoned-up approach to turning this thing around, which is, I guess, kind of what David Beatty was, but he wasn't a man of his word, and we don't really know at this point if he ever had any intention of following through on his plans. And he inherited a worse situation than this coach is. So I do think there are quality candidates out there who would be interested in this job, but I think I would just want some assurances that I'm going to be allowed to do this the way I want. This isn't going to be a football program that is made for social media hype videos, because that's what the recruits want. I'm so tired of hearing that phrase. If I hear that phrase one more time in relation to, like, why are they doing all of this? Why is Les Miles doing a video where he's on the phone talking to Rick Ross and then dance? Oh, that's what the recruits want, though. Really, because there's a lot of programs who don't do that, and they seem to be in more favorable positions than the one Kansas currently finds themselves in. So that's neither here nor there, but that to me just speaks to the idea that it's going to take a guy who doesn't care about outside influences, who doesn't care about how things are being portrayed or how people nationally or locally view Kansas. It's going to be a guy who's actually interested in not just turning Kansas around, but to quote Jeff Long, to understand the unique qualifications that one needs to have in order to turn Kansas around. So I think it's attractive enough. You're not going to probably steal Power 5 head coach, but you guys have probably heard the same names tossed out there that I have. Like, I think there are guys around the country who are going to be interested. And you throw $10 to $15 million at someone, it can change their tune pretty quickly.
Nick, you're uniquely qualified to talk about all of these things, and I'm glad that you've been uniquely qualified to be on this show as well. We'll talk to you again soon. Go, I don't know, lay down upside down like a vampire or something, and just try to get some amount of KU-based rest. And we'll talk to you again soon, probably whenever David McCormack is active once again.
I'm gonna go watch the Summit League Championship. Bye, guys.
Do anything else, Nick? Nick, no, do anything else. Nick Schwerdt of Rock Chalk Sports Talk on KLWN. Follow him on Twitter at Nick_Schwerdt, SCHWERDT. And you can listen to Rock Chalk Sports Talk on 1320 KLWN and 1017 FM Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 in Lawrence. Also, it's all podcasted. You can get all the links from his Twitter account, again, at Nick_Schwerdt. We are uniquely qualified to take a break, so we'll do that whenever we come back.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Jeff Briggs with Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Dodge Power Days roll into March, and it's just in time for tax return season. At Victory, you choose between a new Dodge Journey or a new 2021 Jeep Renegade and get $3,000 over Kelley Blue Book for any trade-in. Folks, it's this simple. Drive in, provide your trade information, and add $3,000 to whatever Kelley Blue Book says it's worth, and let's do business. Visit us at victorymotorskc.com, where our first price is better than their last.
A reading from the Golden Oak Lending Book of Mortgage Lingo.
What is a cash-out refi? It's using the equity in your home to pay off high-interest credit cards. Paid it off! Yes! I'm James Hawkins, president of Golden Oak Lending. With mortgage rates at a record low 1.875%, you can save hundreds each month and skip your next two payments. You'll pay nothing out of pocket, and we never charge for a home appraisal if we can't close your loan. And remember, our local lending experts speak mortgage and love translating for our customers. Eliminating debt means putting your dreams back on the table today.
Updated bathroom?
Updated bathroom and a pool table?
Don't push it, Rick.
Get started with our fast and easy zipline tool at goldenoaklending.com.
NMLS 114937, 1.875% fixed, 2.913% APR, FHA 15-year mortgage with 20% equity and approved credit. JLB Corporation, 8595 College Boulevard, Overland Park, Kansas.
Spring training isn't just for baseball players. You can lose those pandemic pounds and get into shape before the warmer weather, since it only takes 40 days to lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40 plus pounds with NJ Diet. NJ Diet's program starts with bioenergetically personalized supplements based on your hair, saliva, and blood work. Then, NJ Diet uses DNA testing to create your ideal diet and workout regimen to help you keep it off. Don't want to do it alone? NJ Diet is with you every step of the way. You will be fully monitored by their certified staff to make sure you are burning fat and not just losing water. You'll also get the doctor's personal email and phone number. NJ Diet offers live online video consultations, and they have a location close by, right off 435 by the corner of College and Metcalf. Call 855-5NJ-DIET. That's 855-5NJ-DIET. Or go to njdiet.com and lose the weight for good. That's njdiet.com.
Basketball is our favorite season. KC Live in the Power and Light District is Hoop Central, presented by Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hoop Central captures the spirit of FanFest in a safe, socially distanced outdoor area with tables, decor, and contactless ordering. Drink an ice-cold Coors Light while watching college hoops with us on the KC Live big screen. For details or to reserve your table, visit powerandlightdistrict.com/basketball.
Okay, so you met the love of your life. She's dropped all the hints, and you're totally committed. Now what? Come to Shane Company and get the ring. You gotta experience a visit to Shane Company. Get to the store or go online and see what it's all about. You won't believe all our ring settings. Those halo rings she's been liking on Instagram? Yeah, we got those. Classic solitaire rings? We've got those too. Whatever it is she loves, in every price range, it's here. Not really sure? We'll help you figure it out. With our huge assortment of always natural, always ethically sourced diamonds, rubies, and sapphires, you'll have tons of options to create a ring that's so her. Our non-commissioned jewelry consultants will help you get an awesome ring that fits your budget, whether you come into the store or go online. You can even book an in-store or virtual appointment. We'll make sure her engagement ring is perfect. And the proposal? Well, that's where you get to shine.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and shaneco.com.
With its dedication to bringing wellness to Kansas City, CBD American Shaman is excited to announce the opening of Shaman's Leewood Total Wellness at 117th and Row in Camelot Court. Shaman's Leewood Total Wellness offers medical aesthetics and IV nutrient therapy, and there is a full-service CBD American Shaman store there too. Start your journey to wellness with Shaman's Leewood Total Wellness. Call 913-227-9150 or go to shamantotalwellness.com. Life is better with the feather.
Hey everyone, Les Norman here, host of the Breaking the Norm show. Since '95, I've made KC my home, and since then, I've seen a World Series champion in 15, a Super Bowl champion in 20, and the greatest fans supporting both. It's the people that make me proud to call KC home. You're passionate about your teams and each other. During this crazy time, keep caring for and loving each other. And thank you for making KC not only the greatest sports city, but also the most caring and helpful place to watch sports. Stay healthy, be safe, don't panic, and keep loving each other well.
March Madness is on its way. Sports Radio 810 is your exclusive home of Championship Week, with live coverage from downtown at T-Mobile Center of the Big 12 Championship. Plus live championship games from around the country, including the SEC, Pac-12, Big East, and the ACC. And we'll wrap it up with Selection Sunday and our exclusive bracket special. Your home for March Madness. Sports Radio 810, WHB.
What you doing? Designing my new 2021 Nissan Kicks Online in the Kicks Color Studio. I give each a special name. This one's electric blue, orange, red, white. I call it the Gumball Machine. You think it's me?
I feel like you're more of a red velvet guy.
Limitless possibilities. With over 100 million available color combinations and Bose Personal Plus system in the boldly new 2021 Nissan Kicks. Bose is a registered trademark of the Bose Corporation. Color combinations include interior and exterior colors. Customization is an available feature subject to availability at participating Nissan dealers. See dealer for details.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
One thing that Tequila Cowboy is getting sued by me because that's my nickname.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Is that an old one, Beards?
Or
is that a new one?
I think that's new.
Boy, I don't have any memory of that.
I think that's from like last week.
I bought Renee as a Valentine's Day present a cocktail book, like a book of cocktail recipes called Tequila Mockingbird, which is a bunch of literary cocktails.
I think my mom got that for my dad.
We haven't used it for literally anything yet.
There are a couple other ones that are pretty good too.
If I'm currently trying to get my internet at a place that makes me happy, and by happy I mean that's functioning. I'm having some issues tonight because it's a weekday. But maybe this is a post Seth Keysor conversation. I would love to just read you some of the names of this or from this cocktail recipe book because it's wonderful.
They're very good.
So there are really three things that I want to try to get to. Again, we'll do Chiefs with Seth Keysor of the Chief of the North newsletter here in about 15 minutes. Also, of course, from Times Ours. We'll be doing another episode of Times Ours in Thursday morning, I think. So we're in kind of this weird pocket where we've got some national NFL news right now of like franchise tags, but none of it really impacts the Chiefs that much. They weren't going to sign Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin anyway.
How dare you?
Sorry. I wouldn't have said
dream.
I wouldn't have said that to Brett Veach's face because he would have said fight me and then he would have said watch me.
And the fact
that
would
have been the dare, and he would have done it.
The fact that you say none of this affects the Chiefs. I mean, a running back was not franchise tag who is going to be a Chief.
All right, Rudy, if you could do two things for me. One, if you could shut up, and two, if you could please turn on your hotspot, I'd really appreciate it. If you could just
I'll do one of those two things.
At this point I would prioritize. I'd prioritize the hotspot if I could pick. Which
Well,
one
he
I
hasn't shut up yet,
prefer.
so
yeah, that's pointing in a good direction. I want to play you a little bit of Bill Self. Thank you. A little bit of the Bill Self audio from today, whenever he was talking about the fact that KU is going to be without David McCormack and Tristan Inaruna for the Big 12 championship. Both of them have some sort of COVID protocol run-in. We do not know if they tested positive or not. I'll give you my, reckless speculation on that momentarily. But one thing is we've made Uniquely Qualified a joke within 2 hours of this radio show. Like, it is completely, at this point, parodying Jeff Long.
in what regard?
Or what? Who's on first?
Nice.
My Wookiee call. Show's got to be confusing for people who don't listen to it all the time.
It's going to be confusing for people who do listen to it all the time.
Excellent point. But we have made Uniquely Qualified a literal joke. Mm-hmm. The thing that Nick mentioned, the way that he framed it that I think is so important, is that Jeff Long's quote-unquote unique qualifications are incredibly generic.
But unique.
They are in no way unique. It's like, look at this, this beautiful, unique flower in the field may be beautiful, but it's in a field full of red tulips. They all look the same. Jeff Long has qualifications, being a high-ranking Power 5 AD and having all this experience in college football is relevant experience on your resume, but it's not unique. And the fact that he thinks it is, I think is kind of wild. Here's one of the other things that I wanted to read in full here this segment. I'm going to read the entirety of the statement from KUAD Jeff Long regarding Snoop Dogg's performance at Late Night in the Fog.
Is that by any chance on the internet?
Sure.
And now, Josh reads the internet.
We apologize. I think that this music is going to do well for the tone. I'm going to try to follow the tone of the music for the read here. We apologize to anyone that was offended by the... It should be who. Anyone who was offended, not that was offended. You're an organization of education.
I think it's whom.
We apologize to anyone that was offended by the Snoop Dogg performance at late night, said Director of Athletics Jeff Long. We made it clear to the entertainers' managers that we expected a clean version of the show and took additional steps to communicate to our fans, including moving the artist to the final act of the evening to ensure that no basketball activities would be missed if anyone did not want to stay for the show. I take full responsibility for not understanding what acrobatic dancers are in today's entertainment world and offer my personal apology to anyone who was offended. We strive to create a family atmosphere at Kansas and fell short of that this evening. I take full responsibility for not understanding what can't have one-on-one contact with female employees meant in today's entertainment world, and offer my personal apology to anyone who was offended. That last one was me doing a joke. Everything else was the God's honest truth of that evening. I want the music still, Beards. I'm not done. This man, legitimately, seriously, not a joke, took a more serious tone and took more personal responsibility for not better vetting Snoop Dogg, whose music is on Spotify, than for not properly vetting Les Miles, whose former athletic director wanted to fire him with cause.
Jeff Long doesn't know what Spotify is.
Great point. I don't have anything else to say, actually, because I just said all of it right there. I'm just staring off into the middle distance, trying to figure out how this happened. Also, this apology about Snoop Dogg was just deeply unnecessary. Ali Trost and I were there representing Sports Radio 810, covering the event, which feels like it happened 15 lifetimes ago.
Would you say you two were there because you're uniquely qualified?
We were uniquely qualified. Honestly, yes. Yes. We were uniquely qualified to cover a KU basketball event featuring Snoop Dogg. Absolutely. It was my third late night covering a KU basketball thing featuring a prominent rapper. It was Lil Yachty. It was Snoop Dogg. And 2 Chainz.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about 2. I was trying to think of the third one there. Forgot about 2 Chainz.
I think I was near Rick Ross at the football one, but wasn't there the whole... I don't remember. Was not the same. Not the same vibe. Late night. But I remember Allie and I watching just poles be rolled out onto the court. Thought, well, I mean, there's almost no chance those are purely decorative.
Well, the acrobatic dancers. And you pull.
Jeff Long thought that they were going to put, like, Snoop Dogg flags on them and just let them blow in the wind indoors.
I think I believe that, actually. I think I believe that he thought that.
It's just unbelievable. Also, like, what if... Because here's the thing. Jeff Long didn't really need to apologize for the Snoop Dogg thing. No. We might play that Bill Self sound later. We'll see. We're not going to get to before Seth. I accept this. He didn't really need to apologize for the Snoop Dogg thing.
No.
But Rudy, can you be the reporter, as you're uniquely qualified to be?
Sure.
Can you be the reporter asking me, Jeff Long, he didn't have a press conference, it was just a statement. Yeah. But could you be a reporter asking me about the events that were happening at late night as Snoop Dogg was saying curse words, saying naughty words, and having a money gun and stripper poles?
Mr. Jeff Long, sir, how could you allow these atrocious acts to happen?
I'm going to need you to... Atrocious acts. What atrocious acts are you referring to?
The children were scarred, sir.
In what regard? In what way? Excuse you. What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Joshua Brisco with an E.
Hey, where do you work?
I work at a different radio station.
I want your boss's business card. I'm gonna make a phone call. I'm Jeff Bleepin Long. I'm the athletic director at the University of Kansas. You will not question my judgment. You will do no such thing. You know where you're gonna have to go? Miles away from here. You're gonna have miles to go. On ESPN Plus, I'm Jeff Long.
That's JB Brisco with
an E, absolutely. In this instance, yes, that's true.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey, it's former Jayhawk Greg Gurley. Kansas fans and alumni are in every city and state we play. If your favorite Jayhawk fans are missing home, send them some Joe's Kc Bbq. Nothing beats home court and championship barbecue on game day. Joe's will ship anywhere in the U.S. It's easy to reheat, and it tastes just as good at home as it does at Joe's. You can ship all of Joe's favorites, like ribs, brisket, burn ends, and even the famous Z-Man. Ordering is easy, and it's just a few clicks away at joeskc.com.
Hey, it's Lebo here for CertaPro Painters. You know, now is a great time to update your home. Whether it's a new look inside or some exterior protection for this harsh KC climate, there's no better place to go than CertaPro. You can give them a call at 1-800-GO-CERTA or visit CertaPro.com to schedule your free estimate. Now, they have knocked it out of the park every time I've used them. Inside my home or outside where my paint job still looks great. Their attention to detail is outstanding from the estimate through the prep work, the job itself, and especially on cleanup. Worry-free all the way. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated, so they're local business owners right here in our community. They do it all. Premier quality products with competitive pricing, plus a great warranty. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call right now at 1-800-GO-CERTA. That's 1-800-GO-CERTA. Experience the CertaPro Painters difference for yourself. They don't consider the job finished until you're completely satisfied. It's CertaPro Painters, proven and trusted experts in painting.
Golfers, tee it up this year at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with the hottest new arrivals from Callaway, featuring the new Apex 21 irons with tungsten energy core, the first forged iron designed with artificial intelligence for faster ball speeds. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit on the new Apex, Apex Pro, and Apex DCB today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Your home for Sporting KC. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Russell to Espinoza, and he puts it into the roof of the net.
I mean, there's no doubt that Roger still has a lot to give on the field.
Tim Melia, utterly unbelievable. It falls to Polito, headed off the bar, and the rebound is knocked home by Johnny Russell.
The MLS is back on your hometown radio station. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Harry's Razors just came out with their sharpest blades ever. But unlike other razor companies, they're not charging you more. Harry's new sharper blades are still as low as $2 each. You heard me right, just $2. How do they do it? Harry's owns a German factory that's been honing razor blades for 100 years. They source their steel from Sweden and own the entire manufacturing process, from research and development to the factory floor. It allows them to keep the prices lower. How confident are they? A 100% quality guarantee. You'll see it at harrys.com. Blades are even delivered directly to you. No getting unmasked and standing in line. They're delivered straight to your door, with or without a subscription. And right now, Harry's has a great offer for my listeners. New customers get $5 off a Harry's trial set when you use the promo code PETRO, P-E-T-R-O, at harrys.com. That's a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and travel cover, all for just $3, plus free shipping. That's razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and travel cover, all for $3, shipped to you for free. Only at harrys.com, only with promo code PETRO. Warm weather is here. Spring has arrived. It's time to get that lawn back into shape. Do you want the best-looking lawn, but you don't want to have any harmful chemicals? Well, then go to GetSunday.com. That's right, GetSunday.com. You go there, you put in your home address, and their free lawn analysis tool takes care of the rest, all in just seconds. Sunday uses soil and climate data to create a tailored nutrient plan, so you get all the stuff your lawn needs and nothing it doesn't. Sunday is made with ingredients that you can actually pronounce, like seaweed, iron, and molasses, so you can grow better and feel better about it. Sunday explains exactly what you need, and everything is waiting right at your door exactly when you need it. All I had to do was attach the ready-to-use pouch to a garden hose and spray. It's just that easy. Let Sunday take the guesswork out of growing a greener, more beautiful lawn this spring. Visit getsunday.com/Petro to get $20 off your custom lawn plan at checkout. That's $20 off your custom plan at getsunday.com/Petro. getsunday.com/Petro.
Do you have a list of reasons you're not getting screened for colorectal cancer? You think it can't happen to you, or maybe you've heard negative things about the test? Colorectal cancer is the third leading cause of cancer death in the U.S. when men and women are combined, but it can be prevented or found at an early stage. If you're 45 or older, learn more about the screening options available to you, including simple take-home tests. Call your doctor about getting screened today.
Kansas City's favorite sports station, 20 years and counting. Sports Radio 810 WHB, Kansas City.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Steve Lennox. West Coast Conference title game has reached the half. Second half about to get underway on ESPN. BYU 9 threes in the first half, up 53-41 on number 1 Gonzaga. Zags 29 straight wins entering tonight. That win streak going back to last season, 22 straight by double figures. Again, at the half, BYU leading 53-41, that game on ESPN. On ESPN2, also at halftime, the Summit League Championship. Oral Roberts up 45-20 on North Dakota State. Mount St. Mary's beat Bryant to win the Northeast Conference title. Mountaineers' 6th NCAA tournament appearance in school history, the first since 2017. Drexel won the Colonial Tournament, 63-56 win over Elon. Drexel Dragons win the CAA tournament as a 6th seed, the lowest seed to win the CAA tournament since 1993. Cleveland State beat Oakland to win the Horizon League. First round of the ACC tournament, Notre Dame trailed Wake Forest 75-63 with just over 7 minutes to go. Trey Wirtz in the end, a three-pointer in the final seconds. Notre Dame beats Wake Forest 80-77. ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter today with Shanae and Golick Jr. on ESPN Radio on the Packers' decision not to use the franchise tag on running back Aaron Jones.
They are willing to roll the dice and to gamble on losing Aaron Jones. And keep in mind, Aaron Jones is a free agent. Jamal Williams is a free agent. So they could lose both backs, and A.J. Dillon suddenly would be thrust into the starting role in Green Bay's backfield as Aaron Rodgers' number 1 running back.
That's ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Wednesday with Greeny, we're still looking back on Dak Prescott signing the richest deal in Cowboys history, and we'll talk to another Cowboy legend, Moose Johnston, with me, Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
Now it's time for very serious football talk with the man who met his wife on a blind date, chaperoned by his parents.
They actually came along on the first date with us. That was No! I rode in the back seat. I was 22.
The man who needs to take a minute to remember the names of all of his children.
Do all of your kids have the same first letter?
No, actually. Let me think. Do any of them? Tucker, Mason, Cole, Isabel, and Lucas.
The man who can defend you in court, but will probably choose not to.
I'll cop to this on a public setting right now. I am an aggressive cuddler in a consensual sense.
Comma, officer.
Good grief, he's a pastor too? When does this guy sleep?
You will find Seth Keysor everywhere except for in his or your bed, because not only does he not sleep, he's also a faithful husband. So that's important.
It's Seth Keysor of The Athletic on Almost Entirely Sports.
Lots of things going on in the sports world, not necessarily all circling the Kansas City Chiefs at this very moment, which is a weird place to be occupying, as most of the things that we've been talking about tonight have been coming from Lawrence. That doesn't mean we have to continue doing that. That's no excuse to not have a Seth Keysor Tuesday, as Seth Keysor joins us now. You can check him out in the Chief from the North newsletter at mnchiefsfan.substack.com. You can see all of his work on The Athletic. You can listen to Time Czars wherever you get your podcasts. Seth, I just would first of all like to thank you for not having to be here to break down any of the generally not so great news out of KU.
You know, someone phrased it really well on Twitter, and I'm going to paraphrase because I can't say all the things that they said. But the amount of work people put into getting to like the top of their profession, only to have it all fall apart for how can I phrase this delicately? for a lack of self-control, as it were, is quite astonishing. The number of men that you might want to say something akin to, we're not 14-year-old boys here.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can restrain ourselves momentarily.
Unacceptable.
So I'm sure it's good to not talk about who can do that. But yeah, tough news. I'm sure people might be grateful for the break because, man, it's just one of those things. But on the plus side, it almost reads like a long con because if I could get paid $2 million to not work, I would have to at least consider it.
That's a conversation that we've had many, many, many times on the show, around the show, on air, off air, that I think that, all of the unpleasantness that led to this point completely notwithstanding. And speaking now in generalities, like even the Charlie Weiss deal that KU had so many years ago, being paid to go away and shut up and not work anywhere else, for millions of dollars, that doesn't sound too bad. That doesn't sound like the world's worst punishment for your crimes.
Yeah, good work if you can get it. And it is an astonishing thing, the nature of the contracts that coaches sign that give them so much leverage that to get rid of them, you have to pay them that much money. So I guess, good times there in Lawrence. But on the plus side, it's such a storied program that I'm sure they'll have no problem attracting. You know what? I better be careful here because I am not a Jayhawks football fan, so it's easy for me to joke. But I'm sure I just had at least 3 people that previously did not hate me start to hate me.
Any KU football fans who aren't able to look into a mirror at this point deserve whatever they get, if I'm being honest. That's just where I'm at. One thing I would love to have you just sort of give me a quick breakdown on before we really get into some of the pre-free agency kind of off-season, is it a story, is it not a story trip that we'll talk about momentarily, is you tagged me in a tweet earlier today for a piece of news that I had not seen until you tagged me in this. And the tweet that you tagged me and also our colleagues from Times Ours, Nate Taylor and Danielle, producer extraordinaire, you were tweeting that maybe we have a way to finally begin our movie podcast because of this tweet from Screen Queens on Twitter. Elizabeth Banks to direct bear-centric thriller Cocaine Bear for Universal. The film is based on the true events from 1985, where a 175-pound bear accidentally consumed over 70 pounds of cocaine that was dropped from a plane by a smuggler. The exact details of the film are under wraps. I am concerned that this is not real, especially after seeing all of the typos in the tweet. I'm really nervous about this.
It's one of those things that seems too good to be true.
It really does.
And so one can only imagine that it might not be. One thing that makes it seem more realistic is that if there ever was a time period that a bear consumed 75 pounds of cocaine, it was absolutely in 1985. And that makes me think perhaps there's some truth to it. I would pay to see that movie. I would pay good money to see that movie. And so I'm just saying, if it's not real, it should be.
There's a story on Deadline about it. I've heard of Deadline, I think. Is that what I was thinking of? Maybe not. I don't know. I'm keeping an eye out. And also, really, at this point, my heart is under as much stress as the heart of that bear in 1985. If this doesn't happen, I'm afraid it's simply going to burst.
That'll be the straw that breaks that'll be the cocaine snort that bursts the bear's heart.
You're right. I desperately need this to
mess around with some analogies.
Yeah, I desperately need this to be real, and I'm so afraid that it's not going to be. But this is where we're at. So such is life. You know what else might not be real, Seth? The salary cap. The salary cap.
The salary cap is a lot like a 175-pound bear that's done 75 pounds of cocaine. It might not be real.
I think the story is real. I'm afraid that the movie's not going to. That's my concern, just that the movie won't exist. But I bring you this absolutely incredible segue of a true radio professional, because you've written both in The Athletic and up on the Chief of the North newsletter over the last over the last week or so, really. One of these may have come out last time we talked, or at least I think your Athletic piece was on the way out. I actually think both of them were. I just looked at the timestamp. We haven't quite gotten the fresh straight from the manuscript version of this yet, of these conversations. But you did kind of the 30,000-foot view. We've talked about this now 15 times over the course of the off season already, which seems like it's already gone on for much longer than it has. It feels like it should be June at this point. But the one thing that I feel like we could all use a little bit of a refresher on is as you look across the league and you see the Saints right now just straight up lighting money on fire and saying, like, to hell with it all. The Chiefs have some work to do, but they're definitely not in salary cap hell as we may have been concerned about once upon a time. Can you kind of give your thesis statement on why you're not worried about the salary cap and specifically also to the Chiefs situation?
Sure. So anyone who's listening to this who wants to see a more detailed explanation, where I really dove as deep into why I say things like the salary cap isn't real, which is an exaggerated statement. We'll get to that in a minute. But so I wrote about this on the Chief of North newsletter, writing about the 3 reasons, and then there's sub-reasons within the reasons why the salary cap doesn't worry me the vast majority of the time. Now, this year, this singular year, is sort of an exception in some ways because the cap is likely going to go down as opposed to up like it has every other year. And so what I keep telling people that, because I know a lot of people that I respect that take the salary cap very seriously, that have used this year as an opportunity to point and say, see? And my rebuttal is, yes, in the event there's another worldwide pandemic, the salary cap will matter more than it normally does. But this is the thing with the salary cap is this. It's a hard cap. However, NFL teams like the Saints you just referenced, they just franchise the guy, and they're like, what are they, like $60 million above the cap or something weird? Like, is it 50 at this point or 30? I don't even remember. It might be
more than that. It's a significant chunk of change.
It's a significant amount of money. And so the long story, the short story of it is they know they can get under. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. And the first thing I'll talk about is contract structure. The ways NFL salaries and the way NFL contracts work, whenever we say, oh, it's a 5-year, $100 million contract, everyone immediately goes to, oh, okay, a $20 million a year cap hit. That's not remotely how they're structured, though. Because of signing bonuses, teams can, and other kinds of bonuses, teams can fluctuate when the cap hit happens, right? So that's why, like, Frank Clark's massive contract only had like a $6 million cap hit the first year. And then it was like a 18 or 19 the second year. And then it balloons at the end, and we'll come back to that. And so that's one way that you can mess with contracts is the idea that you can always structure them in a manner to where you have different cap hits in different years. So if I have 3 different players with big cap hits, I can space them out to where their big cap hits come in different years, right? The second thing that people have to understand is restructuring or converting certain base salaries or certain types of bonuses into signing bonuses can be done every year. And so let's take the Chiefs right now. People are saying, oh, man, well, the Chiefs have, they're like $24 million above the cap or something, maybe even a little less, a little more, I can't recall. Yeah. The Chiefs right now can get under the salary cap just by restructuring contracts of Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones.
Not even adding
just
years.
By doing that.
Not even adding years in those circumstances.
Not adding any years. What that would do is it converts them. So the reason restructuring can be dangerous if you do it too often with literally everyone is then if you want to cut a player, you can't. Well, here's the deal. They're not going to want to cut any of those 3 guys. And so like with Patrick Mahomes, I think they can save about $17 million this year. And then it gets kicked out over the course of multiple years down the road, which is beneficial for 2 reasons. 1, it kicks out the cap hit over the course of multiple years instead of just 1. 2, those cap hits matter less in future years because the salary cap inevitably goes up as long as the NFL is making a ton of money, which at least in this next round of television contracts, this might be the last massive one that they get. I doubt it, but it might be. But it's going to be massive. Right? They're going to make money hand over fist, and that's going to make the salary cap shoot up once again. So that's a really, 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 really short primer into why the salary cap, it's just so easily manipulated. You can, without cutting anyone, without doing anything crazy, you can get the Chiefs under the salary cap right now. And then if you want to give them, like $10 million to spend, again, without breaking a sweat, not even $10 million. I believe the numbers that I went through with just restructuring and then extending Tyrann Mathieu, the Chiefs could end up in a position where they've got $25-30 million to spend this year.
Yep.
That's how easily the cap can be manipulated. That's the short version of it. Did I do an okay job explaining that?
Yes, I think so. And I do think that if we get any more into the nitty-gritty, it's going to come out in the audio format, just in the wash, where it'll eventually become a little bit of static, because I've tried to do this for so many. I've spent so many hours of my breath trying to make numbers sound good on the radio, and it's a really difficult task. So here's what I'll do. So if you want to see the specifics even more, go check out the Chief of the North newsletter. If you want to see kind of what Seth was specifically looking at in more detail in terms of who moves, who doesn't, all that stuff, go read the piece up in the newsletter. But I just wanted to kind of put that basis out there. Because there you go. Also, see, it's mnchiefsfan.substack.com or bit.ly/SethHatesMoney. And you can subscribe for, like, I don't know, $0.05 a decade or something. What is it, $12 a year?
It's the equivalent of, for 1 year, about what it would cost to see a movie about Cocaine Bear here in rural Minnesota. About $12 for a full year, yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't ask to get reimbursed if you put it down as a business expense. I mean, it's just it's petty cash. It's petty cash for a year of this. Anyway.
And in this particular article, like you said, it's much more easily looked at in the written format. And I kind of scratched the surface here, but the reality is the salary cap, and I give the reasons why I talk about the salary cap going up, the history of the cap. I mean, there's a lot there, and I would encourage people to read it, especially if you want something to point people to easily when they say, well, they don't have the room. It's like, well, they do if they want. Right. The thing with salary cap room, and here's a great thing to think about. People view salary cap space as an asset in and of itself, but it really isn't. Salary cap space, much like cash, I mean, cash is technically an asset in the real world, but it's only as good as the thing you buy with it. Yeah. So Josh, I'm looking at a giant pile of dirty snow right now. If you spend $1 million on that giant pile of dirty snow, and I spend $1 million on, I don't know, Amazon stock, one of us is getting value, the other one is not.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's where, with the salary cap, people forget about that too. It's generally not about what you pay, it's about who you pay. Yeah. The Raiders are a great example of this. They saved all this money by trading away Khalil Mack. Everyone was like, hey, it's really smart of them to save money. So a lot of very, very smart people said. The thing is, the guaranteed numbers that they paid out to Terrell Williams, Trent Brown, LaMarcus Joyner, and I think one more guy that I think they might have cut now, that was the equivalent of the guaranteed money Khalil Mack got. In other words, the money's only as good if it's only good if you spend it smart. Yeah. Would you rather have Khalil Mack or 4 guys who are no longer on your team? I would want Khalil Mack. And so it's not about what you spend usually, it's about who you spend it on.
And so I think that at least sort of sets the baseline of here's why it makes sense to be able to look maybe a little bit bigger than a lot of Chiefs fans may have been preparing to think over the course of this offseason, and also simply why it's not so dire. And so now as we do stand in this point here where we're nearing the real free agency turn, and honestly, I don't know if we'll have a show next Tuesday or not as college basketball takes over the world. The couple of things that I think are maybe most interesting, and you again covered a lot of this so far in kind of the big picture roadmap for the offseason that's up in The Athletic right now. I think you can probably start to lay the foundation for some of the Chiefs' biggest moves this offseason with the guys that they would retain and then kind of work out of that spot, because keeping guys you're familiar with, I think, is a fair place to begin. So whenever you look at that crop of guys right now, maybe guys we expect to hear some news on, perhaps even before they would hit the open market, who strikes you from the Chiefs' current crop of guys that you'd say, you know what, I'd be willing to pay, right at market value for one of these guys, 2 of these guys, 3 of these guys?
Sure. In terms of retention, man, I wish I had that list in front of me right now. So the big thing with the Chiefs is they're losing some guys, even some guys that played really big roles on the team in recent years, but they're not really losing any stars. I think in theory, their initial plan was that Sammy Watkins would be a star for the team, right? Yeah. And that hasn't quite worked out.
I can also give you some guys that you have bolded in your athletic piece if you'd like a little head start.
Sure, I'll take a head start all day. I'll take a leg up there before I start ripping on the idea of retaining Sammy.
Well, so the guys you had circled in terms of the in-house guys that you would prioritize. You mentioned Dan Sorensen, Mike Rimmers, Bashad Breeland, Kelechi Osemele. This was before Anthony Sherman retired, which, by the way, we just needed contractually. I am obligated to take a moment and remember Anthony Sherman, a moment of silence. And we're good. But you mentioned those guys, not Sherman, but the previous crop as ones that you would be prioritizing at this point.
Right, and it's important for people to remember when I say prioritize with this particular group. This isn't like when we thought Chris Jones might hit free agency, and it's like, no, you need to keep this guy. Right. This is prioritize if the price is right. If some team sees that Dan Sorensen has played a crap ton of snaps for a Super Bowl contender for multiple years and says, hey, Dan, we'll give you $7 million a year for 3 years, the Chiefs should not try to match that. Right. Right? Right. But is he, and that's one name that a bunch of people jumped on me about right away. He is a player who has played significant snaps for the Chiefs, knows the defense, and in the right situation, such as 2019 especially, for most of the year, he was the third safety when Thornhill was healthy all year. He can play well in that role when he's not asked to do things that he's not good at. So he's a guy that I think you prioritize bringing back for a reasonable price. I think he's worth more in Kansas City than he is most other places, and I think that's the Chiefs know that. I think Sorensen knows that. I'm guessing he stays put. Mike Remmers is a guy I would prioritize simply because their offensive line is in flux, and guys that you can count on to back up Mitch Schwartz at right tackle and not play horribly, that matters. Yep. He had a terrible Super Bowl, absolutely. But one of the reasons Mitch Schwartz being gone didn't hurt them as much as it should have was because he played pretty well at right tackle all year. Now, that depends on what their plan is for Lucas Niang. If their plan on him is purely, he's a right tackle, fair enough. So Kelechi Osemele, that's a health permitting type thing. But those are guys that generally I would look at and prioritize. And again, with the Chiefs, there's no guys that I say you've got to keep. You absolutely have to, because there's no one who could potentially walk that they can't replace. Yeah. And that's a good place to be for the Chiefs right now.
Is Breeland the one that would make you the most nervous in terms of replaceability?
Yes, man, that was such a great lead-in when the guest had completely omitted his most valuable person.
No, that's okay. So, that's okay. That's listen. We got to be good teammates for each other. I feel like honestly, I owe you one. So,
Bashad Breeland is definitely the best, I think, and most consistent player out of that group. Watkins at his peak is probably a better player than Breeland, but Breeland's been very, very consistent. He's provided solid starting caliber play at cornerback for 2 years in a row for a bargain basement price. The guy wants to get paid, and I get it because he thought he was going to in Carolina years ago. I get all that. But he is the guy that if he walks, things get complicated because the secondary played well last year, and he was a big part of that. And the Chiefs aren't so wildly deep at corner that losing him is a shrug. If they are able to keep him around at a bargain price for another year, that allows them to say, well, we can get a corner if we want, but we don't have to. And that's a great place to be. If he walks, that makes things a little more complicated because, are you going to have a hugely expanded role for Rashad Fenton? What exactly are you going to do to make up for that loss? So he is the guy that I would most prioritize out of everyone that's potentially walking. However, in a perfect world, in a fair world, he would get a decent offer as a starter elsewhere.
So there's one guy that shows up and you're kind of like, do what you can, see where it goes kind of category. And if you want to see everything else, go read the story. There's more about some of the restricted guys, all that stuff. But the one guy that I keep going back to, and I'm sort of finding myself drifting further and further into having a relatively maybe by relatively in terms of just the grand scheme of these conversations, a relatively extreme opinion on, I think, is Austin Ryder. And let me be extreme in a very dull, this is a dull extremism, but I'm just kind of, I want you to tell me if I've gone too far on this. There are enough places where I'm concerned about things across the Chiefs roster that to have a very reasonable NFL starting center who has worked with Patrick Mahomes, who knows the offense, who knows the offensive line, who, as far as we can tell at least, is good at reading and identifying things along with Mahomes on that line. It seems like voluntarily letting him walk and replacing that spot from zero would be adding an amount of work to your offseason that wouldn't need to exist if you just brought him back. Obviously, if his market is crazy, that's all null and void, I suppose. But does that make sense? Does that seem reasonable to you?
Yes, that's fair. Austin Ryder gets blamed for some things that aren't necessarily his fault in terms of the interior line around him struggling. He is, I would say, he's an okay player. He's an okay center. He's a guy that's not going to kill your offense, but he's also not going to lift up the interior if there's struggles around him.
Yeah.
And that's where there's been some trouble. But given that they might have other areas they want to address, I think bringing him back is a perfectly reasonable thing. I don't know if that means I'd prioritize it necessarily, or if I would wait and see what his market is, because at the same time, I think he's pretty replaceable in terms of production. So it just depends on what his market is.
Can he be my Dan Sorensen, where I think that he has more value on this team than he's going to have anywhere else, and I feel like if you're going to just be re-signing guys, you may as well. Is that fair?
I think that's a very, very reasonable place to be with Austin Ryder, especially with centers. That fit with their quarterback, it matters. It matters a lot. And so I think it's very fair for you to think about that in terms of where his value is the most and why it makes the most sense for him to be in Kansas City.
Yeah, I keep circling around that again because, and look, if they're going to invest in the offensive line and they don't end up doing it at tackle, I think there's a better chance and a better argument, by the way, for doing it at center. Like, even with all of that being said, that if you get to 31 and you think, you know what, this dude's going to be the Patrick Mahomes' center for the next 10 years maybe, which is a really silly thing to say confidently about a late first-round pick, but I digress. If you feel that way about somebody there, then that's fine. Then go for it. Now, you're certainly not going to see me shedding any tears because the Chiefs move on from Austin Ryder if that does happen. I just think I would rather see that pick invested elsewhere. So, I mean, now that we're at this point with, again, free agency, hopefully including some outside guys around the corner, where would you prioritize in position groups from not just the retain return guys, but looking around the league in a time when there's been quite a bit, especially on the offensive line, of guys getting cut, kind of late in those veteran contracts, and maybe the Colecchio simile mold if that shows up again this offseason?
I would like to see them. I've had two theories about this offseason, and the Chiefs seem like they're trusting that Schwartz and Fisher will be back, which makes me continually nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm rooting for both of them, obviously, but that makes me nervous. But the one bold move I have always thought about is, man, maybe they should go all in on a tackle, but that would require making a hard decision with a player that they like. I get that. I do think in the meantime, they should really be taking a long, hard look at interior offensive linemen. Some of the guys that have been cut, like you talked about, that have come free, that might be available at a little cheaper price. That's worth looking at. I really hope they think long and hard, whether you're talking free agency or the draft, about another weapon for Mahomes, whether that's, a tight end 2 that's a little higher caliber than what they've had. A little more investment there, considering the number of snaps that position gets, or a wide receiver to replace Watkins' role in the offense when you haven't quite seen like McCole Hardman step into that role. Another place is pass rusher, mostly because Clark hasn't been able to, at least consistently, be as dominant as Jones has rushing the passer, and I think that's taken away a little bit from their plan of we're going to have 2 elite guys. And, we're going to base around them schematically the rest of the way. That works when Clark is playing at an elite level. When he's not, it's not working nearly as well. Now, we can talk about the Super Bowl. A lot of people point to that. Well, Brady was barely pressured. A lot of that was the design of the offense that they were able to run once they were winning by multiple touchdowns. So that's not an entirely fair thing to place on the defense that was getting pressure down the stretch. But at the same time, the defense wasn't getting as much pressure as we would have liked to see for a lot of last year. So I would love to see them, if they were going to go big somewhere, grab a pass rusher. Grab Carl Lawson. And it depends on what he gets offered, to be clear. But there's some really talented edges that are available. And if you can grab one, that would be like, I'm going to be writing about big swings the Chiefs could take. They could take a big swing on an edge. They can afford it if they wanted to. Now, can they afford, a $23 million a year? No, not really. And let me tell you, I don't know how well that would fit in the locker room where you've already got Clark, you've already got Jones. But take a big swing on an edge guy. I could see them doing that, improve that pass rush, and try to build around that for next year. So those are the places that I would look to.
This is only a slightly different question, then I'll let you go on this one. What do you think they're going to do? That's a question I don't ask nearly as often as what do you want to do, because I honestly think your analysis is more interesting than your reading of the Chiefs front office. But do you have a feel in terms of, I would do this, I think they're likely to do that?
I can never get a feel for what they think, except it seems like they pretty habitually have a few players that they like more than I do. And so I don't think they're going to invest heavily in tight end too. It seems they pretty consistently think they can get away with kind of not scraping the bottom of the barrel, but, without saying that, but then they still give that position a lot of snaps. And that's something that drives me crazy continuously. So I don't think they're going to invest heavily at tight end too. I think they're more likely to look for like an edge rusher or something. So that would be, if I were to say the most likely thing they'll do, if it was in terms of something splashy, that's what I would say. And then maybe waiting for like week 2 in terms of the wide receivers that are available, see who misses the cut. If one of the, let's say, those big signings go by and no one has offered Will Fuller a big contract. Well, maybe you reach out to him and say, hey, look, we'll give you $5 million, 1-year deal. You're not going to get paid big money this year. Why don't you try to stay healthy for a full year and let Patrick Mahomes throw you the ball? Something like that I could see them doing.
Seth, it's always nice to have just a nice 30-minute conversation with baseless speculation about things that will be proven either completely idiotic or absolutely prophetic 2 weeks into the future. It's the absolute joy of the offseason. Thank you very much for maybe breaking my heart as I try to figure out still if Cocaine Bear is a real thing.
Oh, it's absolutely no problem at all. I'm happy to do it.
At the very least now, this movie exists in my mind. Seth Keysor of the Chief of the North newsletter. Go to mnchiefsfan.substack.com. And, of course, The Athletic and the Times Ours podcast. Another episode with me and Nate and Seth coming later this week. You can find all those links on Twitter at RealMNChiefsFan.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Prime Lending's mortgage professionals are ready to assist you with your next home loan or refinance of your current residence. Prime Lending has 10 convenient locations to serve you. Visit whyprimelendingkc.com. That's WHY, primelendingkc.com, or call 816-600-4561. Prime Lending, ranked #1 mortgage lender in the Kansas City metro area market for market track January 2019 through October 2020. All loans subject to credit approval. Rates and fees subject to change. Prime Lending, a Plains Capital Company, NMLS 13649, is an equal housing lender.
Premier Mazda of Kansas City, where you can save thousands on new 2021 Mazdas. All new 2021 Mazda 6 Touring, just $269 a month. Mazda CX-5 Touring for just $289, and the Mazda CX-9 Grand Touring, just $389 a month. The deals don't stop there. Get the 2021 Mazda CX-30 Premium Package for just $249 a month and as low as 0% APR for up to 48 months. Come to the #1 Mazda dealer in KC, Premier Mazda of Kansas City, home of the Premier Promise. Right past State Line and 135th, or at PremierMazdaKC.com. See dealer for details.
Want professional tax prep at a great value? Jackson Hewitt has an offer you won't want to miss. For a limited time, we'll prepare your federal taxes for as little as $48 and no more than $179. That's right. Get federal taxes done for you by skilled Jackson Hewitt tax pros in Walmart for as little as $48 and no more than $179. This offer won't last. Terms apply. Stop by Jackson Hewitt in Walmart and get your coupon code and details. That's Jackson Hewitt, conveniently located in Walmart.
Sports Radio 810 is proud to be Kansas City's home for the National Football League.
Winds up, he throws a long pass, wide open Hill, catches the ball at the 22 of San Francisco. What a play by Mahomes!
From Monday night to Sunday night, and every game in between. Keep it right here on your exclusive home for the NFL, the NFL playoffs, and the Super Bowl.
The Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl.
Sports Radio 810 WHB.
There's no such thing as quality of life when you are constantly in pain. No sleep, no work, no play without the pain. Enough is enough. Stephen St. John here to tell you about the medical professionals at QC Kinetics who help patients take back their quality of life with bold new breakthrough pain treatments. These are regenerative cell therapies that precisely target the root cause of the pain, usually caused by old injuries and arthritis, back pain, hip pain, shoulders and knees, even sciatic nerve pain. QC Kinetics' new gen therapies help restore and heal damaged tissue with long-term relief. No Band-Aid solutions. And they have amazing patient satisfaction reports. Best news? No surgery, no pain meds, and no downtime. Don't suffer one more day. Book your free consultation at QC Kinetics. Call now, 816-412-6299. Located right off 435 and State Line. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
Spring is coming, so plan now to keep those bugs out with Augustine Exterminators. Now is the time to establish and or maintain a barrier around your house. Don't let it break down. At Augustine Exterminators, they have you covered. Augustine is a family-owned, local business since 1966. All of their techs are certified in both Missouri and Kansas. In fact, check out their amazing reviews from all their KC area customers. They're also a Quality Pro and Green Pro company. Augustine also does carpet, rug, air duct, and tile cleaning. They have an excellent referral program as well. Refer a new customer, and you and they get $25 off their next service. That's right. Refer a friend, and you both get $25 off your next service. Shop and buy local with Augustine Exterminators. Call Augustine Exterminators today at 913-359-8627 or go online at AugustineExterminators.com. And Augustine is looking for qualified technicians. Call today at 913-359-8627. 913-359-8627.
Basketball is our favorite season. KC Live in the Power and Light District is Hoop Central. Join us at KC Live as we MC the pregame. McFadden's is offering a special brunch on Thursday and Saturday to fuel you up for game day. Carry out and dine in are available from all restaurants during the tournament. It's all brought to you by Coors Light, KC Live, and Sports Radio 810 WHB. For details or to reserve your table, visit powerandlightdistrict.com/basketball.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
If I just let you talk about how interesting this is until you stop talking about it, how far would you get?
Maybe like 10 seconds.
Go.
Well, now you've...
Oh, well, that's
thrown
zero.
me under the bus.
That's a zero for sure.
Yeah.
That is a 0-second monologue.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Seth Keysor for joining us every Tuesday. This came up yesterday. We forgot to get to it. Beards, quick, give me your review of the NBA All-Star Weekend festivities. Go.
Do you want everything, or do
Go.
you want just the dunk contest?
Go.
Okay, skills contest was fine. It's shorter than it used to be, which, it was whatever. Three-point contest was still really good. Steph's amazing at shooting. Dunk contest was...
Analysis you only get here and almost entirely.
Dunk contest was fine. Dunks were better than I thought they would be.
2 fines and a good.
The judging, however, was not that good. It was kind of all over the place and not great.
What would you give the judging out of 10?
Out of 10? Probably like a 12. And then the All-Star game was fun. It was fine.
But you said it wasn't very good.
LeBron's a better GM than
I was
Michael
being
Jordan
inconsistent
ever
like the
was.
judging.
I mean, LeBron's proven he's a better GM than Jordan, right? Like, clearly.
Yes, because he's having to pick from the best players and not Kwame Brown.
It's good. That's it. Well, listen.
Yeah, because that was Jordan's only option.
Yeah, that was
Kwame
first of all,
Brown.
that wasn't Jordan's only option. Second of all, Beards, don't be mad at LeBron that he's got a good eye for talent. You're right. You're right,
Guy
Beards.
knows talent.
You're right, Beards. LeBron only picks all-stars. Shame on him, I guess.
Michael Jordan was out here making Lola Bunny thick, and LeBron's like, no, we're going to have a normal bunny.
I'm super excited for that liner in 6 months, completely devoid of context. I'm so excited.
Beards won't make it a liner, though, because it's insulting Michael Jordan. That's the problem.
I disagree.
Yeah,
I
he'll
disagree.
take it out. Yeah, he'll cut it. He'll cut it.
No, I think what Beards is gonna say is that,
You're right,
that
he'll work his
in
magic.
Jordan's era, Lola Bunny was thick, which is what you said.
It's true.
And I hate that I had to also say those words to make that point.
You also said it, yeah. Beards, thoughts on Lola Bunny?
Call Seth back. Call Seth back and listen. I want to.
Didn't you have some all-star thing you were going to talk about?
I could not tell you for the life of me what that would have been.
Real fast, Human Torch on Twitch.
Were there any animated characters in the All-Star game?
Beards
Not
is
that I
the
saw.
hero we need, not the one we deserve.
Disagree.
I was just the other way around.
Yes.
He's the hero you deserve.
Beards is
he is
absolutely
not the hero you need, though.
Absolutely agree. Beards McFly is the hero we deserve.
Yes.
Not the one that we want.
Nope.
Not the one that we need.
Nope.
Not the one that we wish we had.
Nope.
One we'd be happy to get rid of.
Yep.
But the one we have.
Yep.
I honestly, Beards, I think what I may have said I was going to say about the NBA All-Star festivities is that the only thing I saw about it was I think the next day on the jump or somewhere, I was near a TV that was turned on, and the bottom third on, it may have been Jalen and Jacoby, was Anthony Simmons wins dunk contest. Should the dunk contest be finally canceled? Was what the bottom third said.
I mean,
and
we've
that's
had that,
all I had.
We've had that before. That
Every
was 97.
year.
No, it literally got canceled.
Oh, I mean the conversation.
There
Okay,
was
go ahead.
there was a 3-year gap between 1997 and then 2000, which was the Vince Carter dunk contest, where we didn't have one for lockout reasons or other reasons as well.
Interesting. This year would have been a perfectly fine one to not give it to us and then make
Sure.
us want it more. Would have made sense.
But I mean, also
Didn't
having guys that are either end of the bench players
Not
or
great.
guys that are literally have two-way contracts.
Yeah.
And Anthony Simons and Cassius Stanley.
Is it pronounced Simons?
I don't know.
It is Simons.
Have combined
So it's Anthony Simons.
2 dunks between them, and both of them are from Anthony Simons.
Anthony. I don't want to call it a
Anthony.
list. I don't want to call it like a lisp or anything. I don't want to be rude. But,
That's fair.
But it's Anthony Simmons.
Who had the best dunk of the night, but was
Nephew
also
of
kind of
Bill
mediocre
Simmons.
with the other 2.
Yeah, I just don't. I feel like I have an image in my mind of Dwight Howard in a cape.
Yep.
He's done that 3 times
and
now.
Blake Griffin jumping over a Kia.
Dwight Howard versus
And everything
Danny,
everything since then,
I
I'm
almost
just
said Danny Green. Not Danny Green.
Gerald Green.
Gerald Green. Yes. The Gerald Green, Dwight Howard. Like for me, that was. It's been downhill since then. For me,
Is that just us being old people?
probably. No.
Are we just gonna say the
issue
best
is-
the best
Levine
dunk
and Aaron
contest
Gordon have
is
been awesome. Derrick
the-
Jones Jr. was awesome the year that he won it last year.
The issue is that at this point there are just so much fewer dunks that you can do with shock value. The reality is like when you watch the dunks, even that like Obi Toppin did.
Yeah.
What Obi Toppin did was remarkable. It's just we're so numb to it now because there are 99% of the league can do that now. And it just wasn't that way even 10 years ago, right?
Well,
like there's the level of athletes and just like there's only so many dunks you can do. You just start to run out of ideas.
Well, I have a counter argument to that, which is those dunks would be more fun if LeBron James were doing them. When was the
Yeah,
last time we had a
for sure.
legitimate star?
But those are
in their
why.
prime
But this is
doing
why the
dunk
stars
contest?
don't want to do it though, is because the dunks are just kind of like nobody knows of like what dunk should I do because there's not like it's all been done at this point.
I think the word shock value is the thing that I'm really latching on to, and we're just gonna have to eventually get back to the original Olympic game style. Start doing it in the nude.
I'm good with that.
People would watch.
Yeah.
People would tune in.
I'm down.
You can do a multicast, maybe the ESPN feed or the TNT feed or whatever is, little censored boxes.
PG-13,
Absolutely. Yeah, the Paul George stream.
Yeah.
And you can have, your little pixelated boxes and everything.
Totally.
And then on True TV, it becomes the hold on.
You see the
dunk.
truth.
Hold on, it becomes the dunk contest.
I will also say having a crowd probably didn't help. Not having a crowd didn't help.
I was gonna give an opinion on that, and then I did have to remind myself that I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
So I really probably shouldn't.
My guess is it probably, for me, and again, I'm just speaking just solely for me because I can only speak for me. My guess is it wouldn't have mattered. I just have such little interest in the dunk contest, and honestly, and again, this is more of a me thing. I think the general public would be way more interested if you had bigger names. Part of this is I honestly just don't even really care if it was LeBron James versus.
So
now, if it was Nikola Jokic, yes. I'm in.
This isn't a layup contest.
It would
Rudy.
be the greatest, the most electric thing ever.
This
It's
isn't
the world's
a
greatest
competition to be
athlete.
the seventh best basketball player in Serbia.
I'm doing that thing where we turn down Rudy's mic to about halfway whenever he starts talking
That's
about Jokic.
great.
I
That's
forgot
so
about that.
helpful. That's a great thing that we have.
Yeah.
The only thing about
Anyway, you were saying
You have
something
to,
about
you have to speak up, Rudy.
you were saying something about LeBron in the dunk contest, I think, or star players.
So yeah, the thing.
Giannis had the perfect opportunity.
You're gonna have to. Rudy, your mic's not quite working. You're gonna have to just be louder.
Lob the ball off the back.
So for me, what if we went the other way on that, Beards, where you say it needs to be LeBron? What if we just
I'm not
started?
saying LeBron, just
yeah,
star
sure.
level players.
What if we like real stars like LeBron or Giannis or Devin Booker or Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum? Probably nobody on the Nuggets, but like maybe someone from one of our teams.
Well, I was gonna say Will Barton, but he's not really a star player.
And then it was just like,
He's athletic and fun.
But what if we went the total other direction and you just have like and one like mixtape guys just doing legit absolutely crazy circus dunks with trampolines and whatnot, like, and you're just saying, all right, we're judging bona fide, and I'm trying to remember the names of the creative player from NBA Street.
I got it.
The Truth, and
I got it.
that's
No.
already...
Halftime. Slam ball. Bring it back. Boom. We're done.
Slam ball was awesome.
Yes. Bring slam ball back.
Is slam ball on a trampoline?
Slam ball is all trampoline. You
It's
play
basically
basketball on a
hockey.
trampoline and you can tackle.
There's
Yeah,
no
they
way
wear
you're gonna
pads.
get. There's no way you're gonna get active players to do that
Oh,
because
we're,
they're all
we're,
gonna.
We're getting G League guys. Here's the beauty.
There were
Beautiful thing.
legit slam ball players.
Here's the beautiful thing about slam ball.
I'm saying you're gonna have to just
Slam
get
ball
slam ball
does
players.
not require stars to be entertaining.
Absolutely.
I could be out there playing slam ball and it's gonna be entertaining.
Yeah.
Because it's slam ball.
I think that's. I
God,
think
I miss
that's.
slam ball.
I think
Slam
that's
ball
the path.
was awesome.
It was so much fun. Me and my friends used to like get like because like the little trampolines, like we would get them, put them in front of the hoops. Obviously, we didn't have like a court long
Yeah,
trampoline,
but you're still doing
you put a
absolutely
trampoline
stupid-
in front of each
Yeah.
hoop, and you were just oh man, the concussions I suffered.
I
good old
remember
days.
the one thing I remember well from my childhood is I was at a neighbor friend's house in the backyard, just all trampolining or whatever. And we're all bouncing the trampoline. And then you just get that one fateful bounce.
Oh boy, that bounce.
There is a special feeling where you get more bounce than you
Yep.
bargained for, and your trajectory is not good.
There's a
it is not good.
It may differ for each person, but every person had that height. That
Yeah.
once you hit a certain height in
Yeah.
air, you just all of a sudden it was like you would enter a no gravity zone.
Yeah.
You just like your stomach kind of dropped a little bit.
Yep.
You felt weightless, and
Yep.
there really was just a hopelessness. Like
Absolutely.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I may land right in the middle of the trampoline again, but I may break my ankle in the process. I may go off the trampoline.
I
In my
may roll
case,
into a ball like Yoshi and try to just have my egg bounce.
I hit my tooth on the metal part of a trampoline and wasn't chipped it.
no!
Like there is a moment, there is a height that you achieve where anything is possible and it's all terrifying.
I had
those bounces, man.
I had one. It wasn't the most extreme double bounce, which is what we called it. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's what you call it, right?
Yeah, double bounce.
But I definitely got a little more heat than I was personally bouncing for. Definitely caught a little bit of somebody else's bounce energy.
Yep.
and went right off of the trampoline, just like I was floating away from the space station at the end of some sort of sad space movie, and just landed flat on my back on the ground and just laid there for a second. Everything was fine. It ended up being fine. My head didn't hit the ground or anything, but I just remember, I still very clearly remember just kind of the very solid feeling of just.
Oh yeah, the ground is hard.
It really is. It is not bouncy.
I got pretty good at like being able to just like accept that I've lost all control in this bounce.
Yeah.
And I really am just trying to get like honestly just off the trampoline because I could like kind of land on my feet into like a little roll a lot better than I could land on the metal and not like hurt myself really, really bad. Like hit my face on the metal, outlier of the trampoline.
What were your
did that a lot.
What were your go-to trampoline games? Because I'm definitely not just out there just bouncing. There's something competitive.
Yeah, probably popcorn.
Okay, explain pop. I think
so. Popcorn is so if there's like 4
I didn't know this was
people,
ever called popcorn, but I think we're gonna have the same.
You
game.
like sit in the middle, legs crossed, your hands are holding onto your feet, and the point is somebody bounces and tries to pop you like a popcorn.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so once both hands have released from the feet, and I think even like if you still had if you could still keep your legs crossed, it's like a four part thing.
Right.
Each leg crossed, each hand on the foot, and you were just jumping, which again, dangerous game.
What I remember is knees up.
Yeah.
In a kind of a somersault position, and it's the same thing.
Just
and then
everyone,
and then everyone else. I don't know why that distinction came into play for me, but there's something so maniacal about a bunch of 12-year-olds or whatever just trying to foot spike directly by your head.
Yep.
So you will eventually flip, land on your head, break your neck, and then let go of your own hands.
We also played tackle football a lot, which in retrospect, again, doesn't seem like a great idea.
I fell
off the trampoline a lot back then.
Most of the kids on the street that I grew up in here in Shawnee actually were between my age and my brother's age, a little bit older than my brother, a little younger than me. But
you were destroying
what
kids.
that meant
you
is
were destroying kids.
Eventually it got to a point where I was pretty much all-time quarterback, or myself and we had the neighbors. We and the neighbors shared like a pretty big yard together, and they had one kid that was pretty much my brother's age, and then one kid that was younger than my brother. So what would we do? Me and the other younger brother would team up against the older neighbor and my younger brother, and we ended up developing some pretty violent games, and also I would dare say nearly a dynasty.
Yeah.
Those were very odd times in retrospect. Anyway, I was 24 and they were 12, 14, and 9.
I'm trying to remember if there were any other trampoline
My
games.
stiff arm was immaculate.
I think those were the two main ones. I'm sure there were some other games. It's just those were the two. I would say, in 75% of the time, those, that's what we were doing.
Yeah, because I don't really know.
I don't know what else you.
I don't know what else you do.
I don't know what other games you really got.
It's not a large surface area.
No. But back in the day, so like I had a friend who had a tent that went on the trampoline. And so when I would stay the night,
over the top,
yes. So when I would stay the night, we would put the trampoline tent on,
the trampoline,
and it felt like we had all the room in the world, right? Like it felt like we were in there was the studio basically was like the amount of room we had, and then the next morning, like once you take the tent down and you just look at the trampoline, you're like, not a lot of space here.
The trampolines.
That's how I learned how to play poker too.
That's exciting. The trampolines with the walls, kind of around them, both pretty much a necessity, and also just...
See, we never had the trampoline with the walls around. Now, my niece and nephew...
It was a good development.
My nieces and nephew, they got the wall around. I wish I had the wall around. So this tooth I'm pointing to, it is like 99% fake.
Wow.
I have chipped it all the way up to the very, very top. There's like no joke, maybe 3% of that tooth is real.
You got like the roots and then just enough to glue onto, basically. Fascinating.
I was knocked down once playing basketball in PE, and I like slid across the the pavements, just like on my tooth. Just
No.
That wasn't even the first time I had chipped that tooth. I've chipped this tooth. This is like tooth number 6, probably.
I could have wrapped up today's show without hearing the phrase "slid across the pavement on my tooth."
Third grade, man, brutal.
I would have been fine if I didn't ever hear that.
Also, one time, you know how fences kind of have like the little pokey part sometimes? Like the metal?
Yeah.
One time we were playing tackle football at recess, and I was pushed into the fence, and it went like into my leg.
No! No!
Brutal out in Garnett, man.
Garnett, you're just built
Garnett's
different.
brutal.
Garnett's just built different. Beers, what was your worst childhood injury?
You mean besides getting hit by a car?
That's what I was going to say.
I think
I broke my collarbone.
How old?
Kindergarten.
What? How fast?
Okay, yes.
They had like one of those tires in the ground or whatever, so where it was like the archway or whatever. I was standing on top of that, and I fell backwards off of that.
Clumsy kid.
Yeah, a little
Not very coordinated. Yeah.
I mean, he did get hit by a car.
Bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Spring training isn't just for baseball players. You can lose those pandemic pounds and get into shape before the warmer weather, since it only takes 40 days to lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40 plus pounds with NJ Diet. NJ Diet's program starts with bioenergetically personalized supplements based on your hair, saliva, and blood work.